Hello and welcome to the Career Relaunch Summit. Whether you're tuning in live or watching the replay, I am so delighted that you're here. I'm your host, Diana YK Chian. I'm the founder of My Market Ability. I'm a career coach, speaker, and trainer where I help ambitious professionals, leaders, and executives define a meaningful career, navigate change, and differentiate as top talent to get hired and earn more. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're here, tell me where you're from, what you're excited about learning. Are you tuning in from LinkedIn or YouTube or is it Facebook? I'm curious to know. Yesterday, we were on fire. I was on a high. I couldn't really sleep last night. I was just too excited. I've received messages from all over the world. Even after the summit, we had like thousands of people tuning in, watching the replays. Like I got messages from people in Japan, Australia, tuning in, like from like Hong Kong, Singapore as well. So I am so glad to hear that this summit has been helpful for you guys, and we're going to have a blast today. So the purpose of this summit is to really help you supercharge your career and job search. I have assembled a team of 20 career and leadership experts whom I admire and respect. And today we have a jam-packed schedule. We're going to start things off with talking to my dear friend, Seema Sodha, all the way from the Netherlands on unleashing your soul purpose for greater joy and impact. And then we're going to move in to talk to my friend, Mike Bird, on the job search skills you did not learn in school. And then we're going to talk to my friend, David Mendoza, on how to thrive as a student in 2021. Even if you're not a student, tune in, okay? There's going to be some great tips. We're going to be talking about mental health as well. And then we're going to talk to my friend, Lisa Plain, on finding your career change superpower. And then lastly, in segment 3, I'm going to be talking to Kerri, Twigg, who's LinkedIn top voice as well for 2019, on how to find your career stories. So we have a jam-packed schedule. And this afternoon, we're also going to move in to talk more about resumes, interviews, recruitment, hiring trends. We're talking to Kamara Toffolo, LinkedIn top voice of 2020. Andrew Seaman, who's the LinkedIn news editor for Job Search and Careers. We're going to talk to Madeline Mann, who is an HR leader and a founder of Self-Talk Millennial. Adrian Tom, who's an award-winning executive resume writer. And lastly, Jack Kelly, who's a senior contributor at Forbes on recruitment insights. So today is going to be a full pack schedule. Are you guys excited? Put in excited in the comment there. Okay, someone yesterday asked me, why are we using hashtags? Here's why. Okay, like when you are actively participating, you are also reinforcing the learning, and it actually is going to help you retain the learning as well by typing in hashtags. That's why we started doing it yesterday, and it's a great way to see the engagement and where you're coming from. So I see a lot of you participating yesterday, and I want to encourage you to continue that because that's going to also raise the energy up for everyone as well. Now, I do know I had a lot of actually clients who messaged me yesterday, private messaged me and said that, they loved watching. And I know there's a lot of the silent supporters. So I want you guys also to give a heart emoji to hashtag silent supporters who are not necessarily participating, but watching. And it could be because they are working, but they are tuning into the summit and don't want their colleagues to know. And that's totally okay. Or, they just don't want to be as visible on social media, which I totally respect that. So whether you're actively participating or you're just watching, the video, I just want to say I really appreciate you there. So thank you, thank you. Okay, so in terms of some logistics and housekeeping here, all the recordings will be available. You can just go onto my YouTube channel. There is a playlist, the Career Relaunch Summit, that you can go back to watch over and over again. Feel free to share it with others. I encourage you to also subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on LinkedIn out there. The other thing I want to say is, at any time, comment, give the heart as well. I see it. Last night, I was going through some of the chats there last night, and I see a lot of you participating. I really want to give some shout outs to those who really helped summarize some key learnings as well. I love it. I've seen those key lessons that you guys are learning there. Okay. The other thing is I want you guys to be really welcoming our speakers when they come live with us. Okay. Give me your favorite emojis, clapping hands, whatever it is. Go type in hashtag go Seema, go Mike. I want you to do that. Give that appreciation, love, and support. And I really, really appreciate that there. Okay. the other is I want to give a special shout out to a few people who have been supporting me very dearly. Is my husband Carson, who's supporting me behind the scenes on showcasing the captions here and the text. Honestly, like yesterday, my last 2 sessions when I was running solo on my own, it was different. Like I was a bit distracted looking at the screen with checking, being present with speaker and looking at all the messages and displaying things. And hence why, like I was muted when I first started as well. So I just want to say I really appreciate him, and also my dear friend Seema, who is also helping me to moderate the chat room with engaging questions and getting you guys all excited as well. Okay, so let's give them all that round of applause and love there. Okay, so before we welcome my dear friend Seema on board, let me share with you a little bit about my story. I had this full circle moment last night. 10 years ago, I went through coaching training, and that's where I met my friend Seema Sodha. And that was when I was one of those transformational pivotal points in my life where I really broke free into really being truly who I am and stepping into my own greatness and living my life purpose. One of the coaches called me out, basically said, stop trying to live a life to impress others and start living the life you truly want and be who you truly are. And that was really a big changing point for me. And I remember one of the coaching exercises we did was really visualizing our future. Oh, who are we becoming? And I had this clear picture. And to this day, I still remember this, is that I remember that this exercise, this visualization exercise, where I saw myself speaking to thousands of people. And I still remember this because I was shaking when I had this image of that and speaking to thousands of people. And I have to say, like, running the summit is really like that 10 years in the making of now, like I have the opportunity to impacting thousands of people's lives and helping others there. So I just want to share that personal story, and it ties into nicely to my talk with Seema on really unleashing your soul purpose and living your purpose. A week ago, I was messaging Seema and I said, I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm not sure if I can pull this off. 20 interviews in 2 days. That's more than 10 hours of talking here. And I have this self-doubt. Yesterday, after day 1, I messaged my friends and I said, I'm meant to do this. I feel so in my element. I feel so empowered that I'm making a difference in people's lives during these tough times here. Even as I was talking to my husband last night about this, as we're reflecting, he's like, yeah, next time we run this, maybe we can just tone it down with like just a few speakers, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5. You don't need to have 20 speakers. But anyone who knows me, Diana Jan, I always like to stretch out of my comfort zone. I take things to the next level. So anyways, I appreciate you and I see you guys. So thank you so much for being here. And I just want to share that personal story with you guys on this whole full circle moment and living my true purpose, where I feel fulfilled. As much as I know I am here to give you inspiration, hope, that motivation, I also want to let you know that you are filling my cup as well. You are also filling my cup where I know I am living my true purpose, and that makes me happy. And this is also where I'm also honoring my core value of human connection there. So thank you for that. All right. So I want to welcome you, my dear friend, Seema Sodha. Seema Sodha is a leadership and executive coach, global trainer, and spiritual guide. She's here to talk to us about unleashing your soul purpose for greater joy and impact. Her mission is to help people increase their confidence, impact, and effectiveness. She blends traditional coaching models with spiritual practices for deep and meaningful change. She's designed and delivered numerous workshops for corporate clients like Eli Lilly, Intel, Tommy Hilfiger, RBC. She is a dear friend of mine who I've known for over 10 years, and I highly adore her. And she's probably not going to say this, but I can tell you, she's one of the best coaches in the world. Like, I go to her for coaching. Like, she's one of the best coaches that I know. So please give me a round of applause and welcoming my dear friend, Seema Sodha. Hi, Seema.
Diana, how are you?
We need to giggle first. This is how we connect. The bond.
I was just going to say, it's like we're on a WhatsApp call or a Zoom call or FaceTime. We always start with the giggles. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, I'm so excited. We have over 100 people right now live with us. Hashtag fill the cup. Yes. Yes.
You.
I'm feeling so excited.
I am too. And I was just so moved by your story just now. And so for those of you who are here, I'm seeing Go Seema, but I want to see another like hashtag Go Diana. Let's see that fill up these comments. Your story about following your dream and designing this retreat, the summit for us is just, it's incredible. And I know that people can feel your sincerity in it and your absolute desire to give back. So let's see it in the comments. Go, Diana. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you so much. Oh, yes. Before we kick off, I wanted to share some of the common things that you and I share experiences. I was reflecting back on some of my most pivotal or transformational experiences in the last decade were experiences with you where we went through life coaching training together, which is where we met, and we have now since become lifelong friends. We left corporate around the same time. And when we did that, we designed like 8 workshops at the Hyatt. You had 1, I had 7.
What did you just say before joining? Like, Diana, go big or go home.
Not just 1 each. I'm going to do 7. Okay, we did that. We went to Brandon Bouchard's Experts Academy when we first started our business. Yes. And then we also went to Millionaire Mind Intensive where we worked on our mindset. Remember that? Right? Breaking the stick. We did that.
Yes.
And then we went to Tony Robbins in 2013, Unleash the Power Within.
Walking on fire.
Walking on fire. So those have been some of the highlights as well experience, even though I don't get to see you often. Like, the last time I saw you was a year ago when you were here in Toronto. Yeah. I just want to say that, those experiences I've had in our lives, like it's just really been such a blessing. And I'm so grateful for our friendship there. And I'm curious to hear from you guys. Like, do you guys have these, like your go-to friends, like, friends who are there to support you? Seema and I, we always support each other. Whenever I have a talk, a speaking gig, we co-create. She helps me think big and dream big. That's who she is. She holds a space for me for that. And so I'm curious to know, hashtag friends, like, do you have friends in your life who can support you in really dreaming big?
Yeah. And even hashtag friends, and also let us know, what was the last personal development training you went on? Because that's something that stands out for me, Diana, as I hear you say all these events that we have gone to. The thing that was in common with all of them is our desire to grow and to improve ourselves. And it's something that I know we hold in common. And to connect that with friends, well, then now you have a circle where you grow together. And so it just feels so powerful. And
you grow together, right? Yeah. What's that saying? It's like that you're the average of the 5 friends you hang out with.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
Yeah. And every year, like I always invest in something in personal development. And this is why I'm so big on personal and professional development, why I like to run things like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So Seema, we're going to kick things off. So what's one thing most people don't know about you?
So if I go into the personal side of things versus the professional, it's that I actually have a fear of water. Even though, okay, great. So you didn't know that about me in 10 years of knowing each other. Even though I have taken swimming lessons all the way up until as high as you can go before the lifeguard level, I had an experience in my life in my 20s where I was pulled under water. I was pulled in. And ever since then, I cannot go into an ocean of a body of water, whether it's a pool or an ocean or a sea. And specifically, I cannot put my head underwater. So for someone who's worked so much on herself, I still have a fear of water.
I didn't know that because we've been to, Scandinavian spa. Like we were in the water, but not putting our head in the water.
Exactly.
Just relaxing, right? Like spa is okay.
That's fine. Spas are fine. Neck down is fine, but do not ask me to put my head underwater.
Yeah. Can you share with our audience of why you moved to the Netherlands?
In a short sentence, because I fell in love with a Dutch man who's probably watching this downstairs from his office. But it was, okay, so if we put this into context of today's segment, which is about soul purpose, which another way of saying that is about your calling. I was called to shift out of my current environment. And the way that the world happened to orchestrate that for me was by bringing me the love of my life. And I share it in that context because it's a perfect example of how I could never have predicted it. I never would have thought to myself that my husband to be will be someone who lives across the ocean from me.
Yeah.
And yet, if we are listening and following the signs, magic is just around the corner.
Oh, that feels so good to hear that. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And what's your story on pivoting, leaving corporate to become a coach to really living your soul purpose?
Yeah. So it's funny, today it feels like the theme of today is in a nutshell. So if I had to put it in a simple sentence, following intuition.
Hashtag intuition.
Hashtag intuition. In fact, hashtag follow your intuition. And that's the key, right, Diana? And you and I have had many discussions about intuition and the weighing out of what the rational mind says and what the intuitive mind says. There we go. Hashtag follow your intuition. And the shift, the pivot for myself from corporate to heading into almost a decade now of leadership coaching experience came from a moment of being on stage, having launched this product and having had an immensely successful launch. And this thought or this voice or this feeling came up for me, which was, wow, if this is something I can do and I'm 70% passionate, what if I was 100? And I just left it at that. And here's the key with intuition. It's like a game of catch and receive. Whatever language you want to use, whether you call it the universe or God or source, whatever that is, there's messages always coming in, and it's up to us to catch it, receive it, and just let it simmer. And so I did. And I remember speaking to you about this, and it simmered for actually not long. I'd say 48 hours. But the thing is, it was knocking really loud. So often with our intuition, if lean back and really hear it, it gets louder. Yeah. And so that was the moment. And I'd watched a Steve Jobs speech that weekend. And there's this one place in his speech, where his commencement speech, where he says, at some point in your life, you're going to have to follow your gut, your intuition, whatever that is, and trust that one day you will be able to look back and connect the dots. And here we are today, connecting the dots.
I know. I love that. I know you were recently at the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within virtual, and I was as well. And one of the questions I want to ask the audience as well, when you think back in your life, what's been that one decision you made that has been a pivotal, a decision that you made that helped you move forward to where you want to go?
That's great. Yeah, those pivotal moments. Yeah.
Pivotal moments. I want to hear it from the audience here, that one decision you made that helped you move you closer to where you are. And that's a good segue, Seema, for us to talk about your topic is, why is it important to find your soul purpose?
It's like, when I hear you say that, it's like asking, why is it that you want the best piece of dark chocolate?
Dark chocolate.
And I really see it like that. I'm so integrated now with following the soul purpose. But what I mean by that is, because when we are connected to our soul purpose, it's like being tapped in to that stream, that flow of wisdom, of energy, of joy, of freedom. And it's like that place of finally living life on our terms, right? Or living life, we talk about the inside out. And if there's one value that I believe all humans across the planet have in common, it's the value for freedom. And so living in alignment with your soul purpose is living a life of freedom.
Oh, wow. Hashtag freedom, guys. Oh, I feel so good when you say it. I'm just yeah. So where can one start to find their soul purpose? This is deep. This is deep stuff.
It is. And there's all these zips. But even now, by the way, you said it's deep. And do you notice even there's an energy of sinking in as we speak about this?
Yeah.
And so the first answer is, where can we start, is to go in. And that can happen in many different ways. It can happen in the way that you described before hopping on this talk, which was through a visualization. Having someone, a coach or someone that you know, taking you through a visualization that allows you to bypass the rational mind. Because a lot of the soul purpose energy, it's like listening to the soft triangle in an orchestra, or the finer instruments in an orchestra that's in the background somewhere. And so visualization is one way of accessing that. Meditation or a mindful walk in nature is another way to access that. But also writing, I mean, writing, I use this term, like, and it's not just my term, but a term that we know in the writing field, which is a stream of consciousness writing, which is that kind of writing where you just start writing first what's on top of your mind, but then slowly you can start asking questions like, so what am I meant to be doing here? What is it that I'm born on earth for? And so writing is a way to allow your soul to reveal to you, what is your soul purpose? So it's a process of revelation.
Yeah, I love that. And as we're talking about this, I love it. And I feel this energy as well. What happens when you have this saboteur that pops up? What can people do with that? There's so many that's coming as we're writing. What's something they can do? Is it acknowledging it? There's one like, acknowledging.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a Dutch phrase that my husband uses, which basically translates to, you're right. In other words, it's like the more what we resist persists, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not like, no, I don't hear you. It's like, you're right. And here's another truth.
Yes. Share another truth, another perspective.
Exactly. Yeah. Because if we sort of dig into what is that saboteur voice about, it's our survival mechanism. And thank goodness we had that, right? Yeah, it's our protection. Yeah. We need that in certain circumstances. But we have to be able to discern which are the circumstances where it's serving us, i.e. fire, therefore run out of the building, and which are the circumstances where it's actually blocking us from tapping into our deeper wisdom.
Oh, I love that. It's acknowledging, it's recognizing, I hear you.
Yes.
And you know what just reminded me is this phrase, and I was talking to a client about this, is to make your why bigger than your fear.
Yes. Yeah.
Make your why bigger than your fear. And this is why even the summit, right? I obviously had fears, but my why was bigger than my fears.
Yeah. I love that, Diana. And so now let's add that onto make your why bigger than your fears. If you listen to your soul purpose, it's like a trampoline that you can jump off of over your hurdles. Because it becomes a calling. And by calling, it really calls you, it pulls you forward. By the way, I read someone ask, am I a yogi? I'm not a yogi. I'm curious, how'd you think that? But then I also wonder, what do you mean by yogi? I have a strong meditation practice, but yeah, so making your why, your vibe, your purpose bigger than your fears is a great one.
That's a great one. And I think that, I forgot what I was going to say here. I was going to say when you guys addressing your yogi, we can talk a little bit about this. Is I know you do Akashic readings. What is that? For those who aren't sure what that is about, can we maybe talk about that? It was not prepared my question. I'm just trusting my intuition.
Yeah, I didn't know we'd go there. All right, let's go there. All right, I'm going to break it down. Okay.
Yeah.
Akashic comes from the word Akash, which in Sanskrit means sky or ethers, or let's call it the collective consciousness. And so the idea is that we are souls having a human experience. And as a result, every soul, every one of us comes with a record or a book that contains all the information about what has been, what is, and what can be. It's not a futuristic tool. It's not a fortune-telling tool, but it's this ability, having an Akashic reading or tapping into the Akashic records is like having a direct hotline to your guides, to the universe, to your soul. And so it sounds really mystical, but actually anybody and everybody has the ability to do this. What's required is that we slow down. Wow. So someone says, I love the Akashic Records. Amazing that people have heard of this. It's phenomenal. And so it's this idea that we slow ourselves down enough to collect or to receive the wisdom that is literally sitting, hanging out all around us. Yeah. And so in the Akashic Records, we get to learn things like, what is my soul purpose? What are my innate gifts and talents? But also things like, why is it so difficult for me to get over such and such hurdle? And so I love demystifying it, because I believe that our world is hungry for this kind of deeper meaning and deeper knowing of who we are. And I'd love to hear, I'm curious about from you, Diana, from your perspective, what is it? Because you've had some experiences with it. How would you describe it?
To me, it's like so I know I've done it with you, like you did it with me, that the Akashic reading. And for me, it's like the wisdom from the universe, like from the higher self. Of my purpose or what I'm meant to do. It's those messages of guiding me, like the angels. Like I see it as like the angels guiding me of who I am and what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, that's great. And may I add one more thing?
Yeah.
What I love about it is it bypasses the intellect.
Yes.
And it seems to be a bit of a theme in today's chat with you. This idea of how can we, like, whether we call it the saboteur, or our mind sometimes can get in the way from us discovering things that are new. And so by accessing the records, we bypass the intellectual mind and actually enter a different space. And I believe we are more than mind, Diana.
I agree. And I think this ties into, because I know you always talk to me about soul set, right? What's the difference between mindset versus heart set and soul set?
The components of my book. Just really exploring this now. So, okay, let's explore it the way that most of us know mindset. Let's start there. So with mindset, we often talk about either fixed or growth. So either it's fixed, it's closed, it's what we know, whereas growth is we're open to new things and all that kind of stuff, okay? If we use that as a base, heart set then for me is about, are we open or are we closed? Are we open because we've done our healing work, we've done our forgiveness work, we are open for compassion, we have compassion towards ourselves and others, whereas closed is often, so many of us, we go through life when we have experiences that hurt us, and so we close off. Yeah. So when we speak about heart set, when I speak about having a heart set, I'm speaking about having a heart set that's open, that is filled with compassion, that is capable of receiving the joy and love that is around us.
Yeah.
And then when we come to soul set, I believe it's about either we're aligned or we're not aligned. Either we're in tune with the messages and the frequency of our soul, or we are out of tune. We're like sort of crackling along the way, not quite tuned into the right frequency.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is the alignment and the flow.
Yes.
Right. And this is what you talk a lot about, how when you are in alignment with your soul, things feel like it flows and it's easier. Yeah. It doesn't feel as it's resisting.
Yeah, that's it.
What you talk about.
You're absolutely right. I love that you brought that in, because it's easier. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have to go out of our comfort zone, but it has this undercurrent of, I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to do this.
Yeah. Is this resonate with you guys? If it is, type in hashtag resonate. I know I'm seeing so many chats right now. They're like, someone typed this is so they really needed this to hear this today. So I'm so happy to hear that. So my next question is, how can one align their soul purpose to a career or business? Now it's like connecting now, right? How to really connect that?
Exactly. So imagine we have gone inside, we've done our either meditative practice or mindfulness or nature walk, and we've discovered what our soul purpose is. Well, then, I mean, other than hiring you or any of the other phenomenal career coaches we have on the call, the next step is to start to look outside and start to find like the connection. It's again connecting those dots. And here's the trick I have for all of us, or like the key nugget for all of us. It's looking outside your normal areas, your normal systems. Because chances are, if you're just discovering your soul purpose, it's going to be different from what you've currently done or currently know. And so that requires us to look in different places. And so what I mean by that is, let's say you typically listen to podcasts that are around technology or podcasts around how to get hired. Well, switch it up. Start to listen to podcasts that are around, I don't know, like Brene Brown stuff, or podcasts that are around soul, because all of these will give you the pieces to start to align your career and business to it. Does that make sense?
It does.
As you're down?
I'm totally connecting this. And you're talking, something that popped up for me, I feel like this is different from just the clarity work of, I'm going to go after this job. This is going even deeper. And for me, I feel like in order to do that, you need to have some sort of breakthrough moments. Like they call it the breakdown to have the breakthrough. Yes. You need to have that moment of just breaking down to have that breakthrough to shed. And I feel like for me, it was when I went to coaching training, where I went from going to consulting, thinking that was my dream job after my MBA, to then feeling miserable and unfulfilled, working crazy hours, feeling like a failure, to then going on a personal transformation journey, where I went to a 1-week Enlightened Warrior training camp with my husband to really dig deep. Warrior Camp was about, what are you willing to die for?
Wow.
What are you willing to stand for? What matters to you? And I came out of that camp, like it was that transformation. Like we were fighting for our lives, like physically, like in terms of that, to really get into our body. And I know you're big on this, like really listening to our body, where you really feel this is what you're meant to do. I came out of that warrior camp where my tribe, yesterday we talked about find your tribe. My tribe all said to me, Diana, you're meant to be a speaker.
Yeah.
Diana, you're meant to be a coach. It was that moment that just gave me that light bulb moment to come back, quit my consulting job.
Wow. And so what's beautiful about that is you're now bringing in actually the other half of the title of this talk, which is for the sake of increased joy and impact.
Yes.
Like in you hearing both the whispers from yourself, but also of your tribe, you are now in a position in your career where you have, you laugh the most out of all my friends. You're the one who laughs the most.
We can laugh.
So we speak about joy. I mean, there's all sides of the spectrum, but that's there too. And your impact. And I think it's worth adding to that, Diana, that finding your soul purpose, there are many different ways to express that soul purpose. And so in one segment of your life, it might look like speaking in front of large audiences. In another segment, like now, it might look like organizing career summits like this. But it can keep changing. So I offer this because sometimes in our Western world in particular, we are taught and conditioned that once we find something, we have to stick to it. But that's the beauty about soul purpose. There isn't just one expression of it. There's a kernel, but the ways that we can express it can change over time. So I'm hoping as others hear this, they feel that, like that release of needing to get it right.
Yeah.
It can change.
I love you said that. You know why? Because I've had clients and they're like, Diana, can you just give me the answer of what I should do so that I can just move on and create my marketing materials and go start my networking? I can't tell you what to do. I can guide you, but it requires the hard work. And I work with a lot of ambitious professionals. And I think one of the common thing I see, and even for myself, right, it's a balancing between your head versus the intuition. Yes. Right. And I see this even with friends like MBA school. We tend to analyze things. We're taught to analyze the risks, the benefits, all that. We do these ROI assessments, whatever. But then we got to really also tap into our hearts as well.
Yeah. And you're now connecting to actually what we're seeing in the leadership space. And I believe it might have been Show speaking about this yesterday, or one of the speakers yesterday spoke about this. Maybe Dr. Tam, about this idea of now, as we are expanding into a new leadership space, having your skills, having those technical skills and the ability to do your job, that's unexpected. If you want to grow in your leadership and actually go higher in your business and in your impact, it's about connecting to heart. It's about collaborating with others, empowering others, enabling others. So the whole model has shifted where we used to need the knowledge to be phenomenal and effective leaders. That's a given now. Now it's like, yes, and knowledge and heart, because everything is changing.
So true. And this is how you weather the storm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And this is a great segue of like how to get out of your own way in achieving your dreams and desires. So, it does tie back to saboteurs. Like, what are some specific things you have advice for others in terms of get out of your own way?
Have a buddy who can, like I have Diana, who can remind you of what it is you're here to do. Because part of getting in, so if I relate this to myself personally or even with my clients, a lot of getting in our own way, as you mentioned, it starts with our inner critics, our saboteur voices. Yeah. They're designed to keep us in status quo. Like, that's their sole job. They get paid to do that. Imagine if they were real humans. And so the first thing is having a buddy or having a friend that can remind you, that you can call and in your deepest of darkest moments and say, please remind me why I'm doing this. Yeah. Maybe that's your husband or your friend. For me, it's like, it's you, it's my husband, it's my sister. But really, and that boils down to being comfortable with asking for help. It's another leadership skill.
Talked about yesterday, #ask for help.
Yeah. And so that's one way. And then the other way, so here's something that I didn't know I was going to speak about, but this thing about getting out of the way of achieving our dreams, it requires us to be honest with ourselves about what our dreams actually are.
Oh, articulating that, right? Clear about what the dreams are. You're absolutely right.
And the reason for that, Diana, it's like the way that you and I talk about it, but the deeper layer underneath is that so many of us have been told dreaming doesn't get you anywhere, or we have phrases in our society like get your head out of the clouds, or that's not realistic. Yeah. And I think that there's value in that at a certain stage, but without dreaming, without giving ourselves the permission to dream, we're never going to actually hear it or see it and therefore realize it. And so it's, if I follow your modeling here, #dream.
Follow your dreams. You see this quote behind me?
Exactly. And, Walt Disney, he has this process in his organization when he was alive. It still exists in the organization where there are different phases in your life. One phase was to dream. The next phase, you bring in the realist. So there's phases, right? But right now, I believe in times of COVID, where we are being asked to stay indoors, it is a time to go inside and to give ourselves the gift of dreaming. We don't need anything else outside of us other than an imagination.
Oh, imagination, guys. #imagination. I feel like this. So I got some messages from people yesterday, even from my own clients, that, obviously with COVID, it's been a tough year for a lot of people, like mentally exhausted as well. And it's like, how do we essentially giving our permission to dream or imagine, even though we're in a tough time? It's creating that space and environment as well. Allow yourself to have, like, in light of this, these are of what's in my control.
That's it. And in order to have that, we have to slow down to hear it. It's like that phrase, slow down in order to speed up.
We did a talk last week on slowing down to speed up. So guys, check it out on my YouTube channel. It was a juicy one on slowing down to speed up. Seema had a great conversation on that. So Seema, to wrap up here, which ties in nicely here, is how to live your life on your own terms. And perhaps maybe you can share your story of how you and Peter went traveling it was in an RV was it for a year?
Yeah.
For 1 year. Talk a little bit about that. And I want to give people, like, some inspiration as well and help on how to really live your life on your own terms.
All right. So started with dreaming. Okay. So we had a dreaming weekend and there were only a few rules. The first rule was you're not allowed to bring in reality. So you can't talk about not enough time, not enough money, or life circumstances won't allow it. So no reality. At the time I had my youngest stepdaughter living with us. So that was important to just say, let's allow ourselves to dream. The second rule was when one of us put out an idea, the only thing the other person could say was, and what would make it better? So we had this weekend. It was right? Exactly. So
I love it.
it was building and it was crazy. And then out of that exercise, my husband ended up saying, okay, so we're just dreaming, right? I was like, yeah, we're just dreaming. What do you got? And he's like, so what if we rented out our house, bought a camper van, and traveled across Europe for 6 months to a year? And I was only allowed to say, and what would make it better, right?
What would make it better?
First, my thought was, what? That won't work. And so I went to what would make it better.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right? And so to fast forward, we turned it into what would make it better was we could take our work on the road. We could speak to our youngest daughter and ask her, what are the chances? What do you think about it? So we could work all these things out. So we ended up buying an extra Wi-Fi adapter kind of a thingy, so we could do all of our coaching calls on the road. We packed up our house in a matter of 3 weeks. We put it on the market, rented it out. It's supposed to be 6 months, turned into a year. And when you say live life on our own terms, I mean, there was nobody our age who was traveling for that long. But it also meant that I got out of my own environment, which is filled with constructs. And so by getting out of my own environment, my mind opened up, my dreams opened up, and it's led to what I'm doing today.
Oh, I love it. Guys, this is going to be my exercise this weekend or over this holiday to dream.
Yes.
Dream with your loved ones and ask the question, what could be better?
Yes.
Instead of asking no or what if this goes wrong, just go, what could be better? And I already feel that just elevating the experience. What could be better?
Absolutely. With the only goal to be as unrealistic as possible. And then later, weeks from now, you can bring in the reality and see how can we make this work.
I seriously didn't think you would do it because I was like, Seema, she's all about luxury lifestyle, like going into a camper van for a year. Can you really handle it for a month? And you did it for like what? How was it more than you thought, right?
It was 11 months. It was just under a year. Yeah.
Wow. 11 months. So I love that, guys.
That's, just going full circle, that's following intuition. That's following the signs, and life is a thrill because of that.
Oh, thank you. What a great way to kick off our Day 2 Summit, guys. Please give our, just love, Seema's all about love as well. Give our love emojis here to thank her for her wisdom and insights on following your intuition, unleashing your soul purpose for greater joy and impact. And thank you so much, my dear. I'm so glad we got to do this together, and I'm sure we'll be talking very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, everybody, for your engagement and presence.
All right. Take care. All right. So we're going to take a 1 minute break here, a stretch break, and I'm going to bring in my friend, Mike Bird. Hello and welcome back to the Career Relaunch Summit. I'm your host, Diana YK Chan. Next up, we're going to have Mike Bird to come to speak to us on the jobs or skills you did not learn in school. Mike is a career coach and founder of Wazo Career Coaching. He's a Montreal career coach for students and new grads looking to transition confidently into the working world. He helps clients figure out their next role, brand themselves as ideal candidates, and land their first real job faster. He leverages a unique combination of placement, teaching, and competitive coaching experience to serve young people from all over the world. He's also the co-host of this podcast of the Career Builders Podcast. All right, guys, let's welcome my friend, Mike Bird. Let's give him a round of applause. Hi, Mike.
So nice to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy Friday. So great to see you.
Likewise, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Did I pronounce your company name correct? I've been practicing.
Yes, thank you so much for that. CoachWazo.com, Coach Wazo Career Coaching, kind of a play on my last name, Bird, translated into French, a little bit of a mix of languages there.
I love it. I love it. So Mike and I connected earlier this year. He invited me to his podcast as a guest where I talked about networking, and it was an amazing experience. And since then, I have to say, Mike, you also inspired me as well, where I've been thinking of doing my own show, like whether it's a podcast. And eventually I was like, I'm going to do lives because I like the visual, the interview aspect. I love seeing people. So I decided instead of podcast to start my own live show here.
That's awesome. And everyone has their own kind of strengths. And I encourage anyone who's trying to create content to think through what are sort of the ways that you present yourself most naturally and go out into the world and speak your voice.
Absolutely. So why don't we kick things off? Like, what's one thing most people don't know about you?
So you mentioned it in my bio that I come from a bit of an athletic coaching background. My main sport, as I've grown up as a coach, is actually football. So American Canadian football, little brown lemon-shaped ball. What a lot of people don't know is that I have never played that sport. And a lot of people ask me, how is that possible once they kind of figure that out? And that's really just a mindset thing. It's something that I learned when I was a teenager. Instead of being able to play the game, I learned how to coach. I learned about the game from coaches, and I've been around coaches and in the world of coaching since that time. So it's really just about believing that you can do something, even if you don't necessarily follow the typical track to get to where a lot of people think you could be.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that because for you, like you have that also athletic coaching. Like what's, I guess, what impact has that on you in terms of you becoming coach and serving students and new grads?
Yeah, so I've always really enjoyed working with young people. So football is a game that's sort of played for people between the ages of a lot of the time, sort of 12 and 25, and sort of that slightly older side of the demographic, people in their late teens, early 20s, the folks coming out of school. I've always enjoyed being around them. They've really energized me, kind of keep me, I'm still, I think, consider myself pretty young, but they keep me even younger. So going from athletic coaching into a different kind of coaching, serving those people in a bit of a different way, took me into the realm of career development, which is really the thing that a lot of young people struggle with. And it's something that I struggled with when I was that age. So it really resonates with me.
Yeah. And I'm curious to hear about your story. Like what gave you, I guess, the courage to start your own business?
Yeah, I guess just sort of belief that it was possible. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I really had myself figured out in that sense from day one. I kind of toyed around with a bunch of different kinds of coaching early on. And it probably took me the better part of a year and some change to realize that to really serve these people that I care a lot about, then it means pivoting a little bit and learning about career development. And really what I teach is kind of the things that I wish I knew back in those days.
Nice, nice. And what's been your biggest lesson learned in 2020?
You actually hinted at it. So the biggest lesson that I learned in 2020 is what I call one conversation at a time. And you and I are here today really as a result of that principle. We kind of mutually followed each other on LinkedIn back in maybe March or April. I think I reached out to you with a connection request, a little personalized message, goes a long way. And I think you invited me to a virtual coffee. We had about a 20-minute chat. That became the podcast episode, which then became a webinar over the summer with our good friend, David Mendoza. And it's continued. We've supported each other, and we're here today having this conversation. So really sort of inch by inch, one conversation at a time. That's the biggest takeaway for me this year.
I love it, guys. Hashtag one conversation at a time. One conversation at a time. And I agree with you. I feel like this year I've actually met more people, online, because, we're just putting ourselves out there and helping each other out. And I love supporting other coaches. And I think this is why we've been connecting. And I've been referring like my clients who are like more the new grads or students to you to work with, because that's a better fit for you there. So let's dive into your topic, shall we?
Totally. Let's do it.
Let's go into it. The jobs or skills you didn't learn in school. So let's kick things off. What are the common job search myths that hold students back, or just hold job seekers back in general?
Sure. There's a lot, and I'm sure I won't get to all of them, but some of the ones that exist, especially in the minds of younger people, are they're coming out of school and they've done all of this work. They've invested all of this time and energy and money into their studies and building skills. And they sort of expect there to be a job somewhere waiting for them at the end of the rainbow. And that's often not the case. There's also the reality that people come out and they say, where are all the jobs? I don't see anything posted online. And they just haven't really necessarily become introduced to the hidden job market yet.
Yeah.
So that's another one. I think one that I see quite often is the idea, and this is so true for young people, is they kind of think their passion will get them in the door, and passion is important. There's no question about it. It's just the way that the passion that they have is messaged is not really done in a way that resonates with an employer. Passion in and of itself is not a tangible business outcome. So when we can sort of take the idea of what a person is passionate about and translate that into actions and results and value, that's when there's actual real power in the passion that people have. And lots of young job seekers have that. So those are some of the big myths that I come across. There's many more, but those ones come to mind right away.
Yeah, that's awesome. What jobs or skills do you wish students learned in school?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel like I can chime in on this one too.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on this. So again, my list is not exhaustive, but here are 4 that I'd love to discuss in the time that we have, and I'll announce them and we'll just kind of drill down on them from there. The first skill that you don't learn in school is basically the ability to narrow your focus and eliminate distractions. I think students that go through school always trying to balance different courses, they don't necessarily have, and especially in today's world that's so dominated by social media and a lot of online distractions, their ability to just sort of soften things, quiet things down, and get to work on something like finding a job, which takes a lot of concentrated effort. The second skill that you don't really learn in school is the ability to speak clearly about yourself. And a lot of the time in going through school, you learn all of this academic language. You talk about other things that aren't necessarily related to you. And so you come out of school with sort of this really complex language that doesn't really make a lot of sense to someone who doesn't know you very well. So just learning to speak in a simple and clear way. The third skill is around performing direct outreach, or in other words, reaching out directly to people who may seem like strangers to you right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you did some of that if you were maybe running a club. I know, Diana, you were heavily involved in a lot of extracurriculars when you were going through school. Maybe you developed those skills, but I think a lot of students don't get that opportunity until later in life. And then the fourth and final skill that is not typically taught in school is the power and the ability to ask open-ended, empowering questions of other people.
Oh, I love this. Can we dig in a little further into this?
Yeah. Totally.
I love it. This is so good. I heard, so asking open-ended questions, direct outreach. What was the other one? Oh, narrowing your focus.
Yeah. And the last one was learning to speak clearly, your message clearly to other people.
Oh, that's a big one for me. Mm-hmm. I always talk about being clear, concise, and compelling because there's only like 7 seconds before that first impression. And the next thing an employer forms is your ability to communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And that's a skill that you can definitely work on and develop there. Awesome. So let's dive into, we talked a lot about the direct outreach already yesterday with Jonathan Austin. So perhaps let's talk about the asking open-ended questions.
Yeah, sure.
Good open-ended questions.
So a good open-ended question is, sort of in the name, right, is open-ended. So any question that sort of has a yes or no answer, you want to start to try and avoid when you're meeting people. And there's a lot of applications for this. So it could be, you could be asking open-ended questions in a networking call, a virtual coffee. It could be in an interview itself, in an informational interview. A good open-ended question, for example, asking this of someone who is watching us today is, now that you've gone through the Career Relaunch Summit, how do you plan on applying what you've learned going into 2021 to improve your job search? That's an open-ended, empowering question that invites someone to think about what they could be doing, and at the same time also makes this really subtle assumption that you do know the answer to the question. You just have to dig into yourself to find it. Yeah,
you're right. Asking open-ended questions is it's like how I've been asking questions here. It's inviting a conversation.
Totally.
It's about getting insights, knowledge, experience. And you probably have guys who've seen this. Like the way I've kicked off each session here is I like to get to know the speaker a little bit more. And so to me, that is building that trust and rapport, the connection, right? By asking those questions that you feel connected to the speaker here before we dive into the teaching and the how-to there. I love that. What else I want to go? Let's go into the communication piece. The communication is
Sure.
a big one. What are some of your tips on how to communicate effectively?
Yeah. So I think understanding, we often hear the term in career development, knowing your audience and realizing that we're out there as job seekers, we're producing resumes and we're writing our LinkedIn profile. And the idea that it is about you, the document or the file that you're working on, but it's not for you. And so realizing that the people who are on the other side reading it, you really are acting in service of them. Can the message be made super clear? I often talk about how I'm a coach who helps students transition from school to the working world. That's a simple branding message that I bring into lots of my talks, lots of my calls. I know you, for example, as someone who helps mid to senior level professionals differentiate as top talent, right? That is your lexicon. And that's the power of having that message. Can I ask you this question, Diana? So when you were growing up, did you ever sort of have anyone tell you, or did you ever read sort of short stories or fables or fairy tales that had a lesson that you might still remember now?
Short story. Yeah, I definitely, I would say I've collected a lot of quotes too. That's probably why I'm big on taglines and stuff. Like I collect a lot of quotes. You guys probably see this. Like I have a wall of quotes, and that's how I learn and remember things, or like little stories that I remember. Yeah. I loved when I was younger, when I came into Canada, I love reading Chicken Soup for the Soul.
There you go. I
love it.
So, and you remember those feelings that come from those kinds of stories. They evoke certain emotions. Sometimes they evoke a certain lesson. And we remember these things for very long periods of time, in part, a big part, because of their simplicity. So that's where the value of this comes from. If we want to be remembered in the minds of employers, if we want to be top of mind, we have to get there with a simpler message.
I love it. So what I'm hearing, guys, hashtag sound bites. Hashtag simplicity.
Totally.
Okay. I'm going to give you another S if I can throw this in here. Okay. Hashtag structure. Okay. When I mean structure is having a flow, a framework of how you follow things. Okay. And then the other, if I'm going to throw another S for the sake of fun here, is hashtag succinct.
Absolutely.
Hashtag succinct. And so I'm really big on the power of 3 rules. When you're preparing for interviews, if you have the 3 reasons why an employer should hire you, you give 3 reasons. 3 reasons why you're interested in this company, you give 3 reasons. 3 of your top strengths, you give 3 reasons. You list it out, you explain what it means, and you give a proof. That's the framework. Okay? Tell them, what it means, and then back it up with an example. Yeah.
Love that all those concrete examples. They make so much sense. And that's a great example. A lot of the time we are telling our story and it's not really grounded in anything tangible. And we want to make our messages tangible, providing examples of the things that we have done. And so, I mean, how can people develop this skill? I encourage people to create content in a variety of different ways. And content creation is really a way of exploring your own voice and story.
Yes.
And if you can do that over time and you're going to repeat certain things in your story, you're going to become more confident. You're going to become more succinct in the way that you deliver those messages. And that's how you get understood. It comes as a journey, as a process. And it's not something that, like I said, is really taught in school that I wish people really were able to dive into sooner.
It's definitely a skill you have to intentionally work on. I even noticed for me, like I work with a lot of executives, very senior, very, powerful in like their jobs. And we still need to work. I work with them on being succinct, simplifying their message. And to me, it's all about practice. It's getting really clear on your messaging. It's really drilling down to the essence of the messaging. And sometimes I feel that, when we're nervous, that we may try to overcompensate by just explaining much, like on and on and on by rambling.
Totally. Yeah. If you feel that you're rambling, it usually means that you've kind of come out of the core of your message, or maybe you weren't really as sure in what you were going to say. And that can be a sign where, maybe we could practice that a little bit more. If I could add one more thing to this, there's a great author, great business person named Donald Miller, marketing guy. And he wrote a book called Building a Story Brand. And he has kind of a soundbite called If You Confuse, You Lose. And his whole framework is around the idea that if you want to sell something, market something, and when you're a job seeker, you're marketing yourself, right? You don't want to be the hero in the story. You want the employer to be the hero in the story. You are the guide. You are the person that enables the victory and avoids the defeat and avoids the failure. You want to be that person who brings something of value to the table and makes them, the employer, the winner at the end of the day. So there's a huge takeaway there.
Oh, I love that. Hashtag, if you confuse, you lose.
Totally.
Oh, I love that. It's another quote there. I love it, love it, love it. And that's a great book. I know you got me that book there. I can't wait to read that book over this holiday.
A great one.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. Yeah. People are talking power of threes, eh? Yes. Sound bites. Amazing. So let's move on and talk about what else here? I feel like we've answered this question now. Like, what can one start doing to develop these skills? I feel like we've already answered that. Anything else you may want to add, or you feel like we can move on to the next one?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you feel like you don't have any of these skills naturally, just test the waters in each one. Test your direct messaging templates, test your story. I mean, put it in front of people and ask them, give someone 6 seconds who doesn't know you very well, 6 seconds to read your resume. What do you learn? What do you know about me from just looking at this? You don't know me that well, and simulate what it's like for an employer to find you.
You know, Austin talked a lot yesterday about testing. He is big on A/B testing.
Totally.
And he was talking about how his stories of him, like he was just testing all the time to help him get to where he wanted to be. And I agree with that, right? Especially if you're students, new grads, you don't have that much experience, you don't know what's right or wrong. You just have to keep testing, and you're going to track your progress and measure those results. Is it actually getting me closer or not?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Tweak it along the way. Yeah. I love that. I love that. What can, how can students or new grads go about approaching their job search effectively?
I really think it starts with understanding who you are. Like going back to the idea that you're selling something, you're selling yourself. Anyone who's been in sales who might be in the audience right now will probably relate to the fact that if you don't really fully believe in the product or service that you're selling, it's really hard to put your heart into a conversation with someone else around it. And the same thing goes if you're a job seeker. You are selling yourself, and if you don't know what your own unique value proposition is, if you can't communicate some of the core stories that have really shaped you and demonstrate the qualities that you bring, then it's time to like get into a journal, or it's time to talk to some friends. It's time to get into some informational interviews and see where your feelings are guiding you towards. I think a lot of the time we're guilty of not really listening to our feelings. They're there for a reason, and they're telling us something about ourselves. It's okay. I mean, I've put this door, I mean, I'm trying to put it into the door frame. I just moved into this place a couple weeks ago. The door was really...
That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And for a couple of weeks, right, not getting this door into the frame was really bothering me. But I realized that the door is really a metaphor for learning. We're opening doors here today for people, and people need to open their own doors. So spend some time opening up your own doors. And I mean, don't be like me, you can get them installed. But that is really something that would be the beginning for a lot of people, is to orient yourself around who you are and go after something based off of what you believe in.
Oh, I love that. That ties in nicely what Seema was saying as well, right? Tapping more to your feelings, and you're talking here like opening your own doors. And to me, that also ties into like really being proactive, right? Taking initiative, which ties into leadership, right? Taking accountability of your own life as well. Going after what you truly want. To me, these are qualities that employers really appreciate and value.
Absolutely.
Right? These are not necessarily experience, but these are the qualities that you demonstrate that people can see that, and they see the potential in you there.
Yeah. Yeah. All of the things we talked about earlier around like passion not being something that on its own is marketed. If you are passionate about something, you will take the actions that demonstrate it, and the actions will be seen by employers.
Yeah. Can we let's go through some examples, like some real life examples of maybe some of your clients or people have done that you've seen that they've had success, like, give you some stories here.
Yeah, totally. So I actually have a client right now who is, pursuing the beginning of a law career, and realized that they're, pretty passionate about writing, pretty passionate about graphic design. They love the law, obviously, or they wouldn't have studied it for so long. And they decided that they were going to build a blog that really talks to other young lawyers, talks about how to transition from school, doing well in kind of the later stages of law school, and figuring out what it's like to network and build your career early on. And that started to build sort of a following for her. And it's also built some skills that she can bring in and market. So she's not just a lawyer to a law firm. She's also someone who can market the business, who can engage people and help grow the client base. So all kinds of little value adds that I just think are kind of an outside the box way of really boosting a candidature. Excuse me.
Yeah. Hashtag outside of the box. This ties into what Jonathan was saying yesterday, unconventional strategies.
Mm-hmm.
Unconventional strategies here. So to me, what I'm hearing with this example, it's brand building. We talked about that yesterday as well, the importance of brand building. And by doing so, she's really showcasing her value and diverse skill set as well and potential.
Totally. Yep.
And that's how you really differentiate. I love that. And this is like, when I think about this is not just about job searching, but it's actually strategic planning of how you really want to build your brand and presence here.
Yes, it goes way beyond just the next job that you are trying to land. It's about setting yourself up with a foundation of, as you said, a personal brand that is something you build and continue to build over the course of your career. It's never a finished product, totally. But it leads for you, it precedes you, and then eventually it follows you. It's what people remember you by.
Amazing. Do you have another example you can share? I love this. This is like good ideas for anyone, actually.
Yeah, I would say, in looking at other ways that people can kind of go about just sort of repackaging what they have done. I can kind of go from my own standpoint. I pivoted out of the education, sort of the kindergarten to grade 11 space, and just my own business, Coach Wizzo Career Coaching, and the work that I was doing as a podcaster landed me some attention as far as opportunities to go in and do contract work, or to go more into what I was really passionate about, which is helping people develop their careers. So I sort of left the world of, elementary, high school education on the back of a real desire and definitive action towards helping people in a different space. And so the more of that you do, the more you are telling yourself, the more you're voting for yourself, that you can be someone really, really effective and important in those new spaces. And it's a thing that adds up over time to just basically making you a more confident person. And confidence is always key to opening doors.
For sure. Confidence. And yet what I'm hearing, it's also showcasing your skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's showcasing the skills here. It's building confidence. I'm curious to even know, for you, you have a podcast.
Yep.
What has that opened up for you, with having a podcast? And I feel like I'm saying this because I feel like for those who want to get their voice out or share their message, build their network, podcast is one great avenue to build your brand and credibility.
So much so, right? We're still kind of in the beginning of the golden era of podcasts. Blogs kind of had their golden era maybe around a decade ago. I love podcasting. It's a way of really being able to reach out to different people. And it's obviously, just as an example, right? It's put me in contact with you, but it's put me in contact with a lot of other career development professionals, people who are not career development professionals, but are leaders in different fields. And so it just sort of encourages you to build all of the skills that we've talked about today, narrowing your focus, deciding who the show would serve, deciding who you will serve in your career, messaging it, branding it in a way that makes sense, reaching out to guests, or, building ideas that will resonate with people. It just takes some exploration, and all of those things kind of come together. I couldn't be a bigger fan of podcasting, and it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Fun's
And
important.
Mike has the radio voice too. I love your voice. You have the radio voice. That's amazing. With, the podcast, it's building your brand, building your network. You're also attracting opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lead magnet as well. And the same applies for job seekers, right? If you don't necessarily want to have your own podcast, you could still pre-record stuff to showcase your work, to share about your voice, your message, sharing your story. That's another great way to get your word out about who you are as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mike, to wrap things up, what's your best advice in managing a successful career and job search for 2021?
Yeah. So aside from, like I said earlier, kind of knowing yourself, spending some time and really jotting down the feelings that you're experiencing around what you'd like to do in this one opportunity that we have on this planet, is go out and just find as many different places and ways of conversing with people as possible, one conversation at a time. It's how you avoid just the trap of sending out 300 resumes and having no results. It's just a so much more fulfilling way of building a career, because it's not just good in the short term as you possibly land a referral or something like that. It's that network goes with you throughout the duration of your career.
Yeah, that's great to hear that. There's one more question here in my head. Can you talk about benefits of podcasting versus video interviews?
Oh, okay. They're both really I would say similar in the sense that you get to know people, you get to ask open-ended, empowering questions as a way of practicing that skill. I mean, the thing with video is you put your face in front of people, and oftentimes it's the fastest way of building trust with someone. Video is a little bit more time intensive in terms of things like editing and preparation. I'm sure, Diana, you can probably relate to that.
Looking good.
That's right. You got to check that box as best as you can.
No, you got to get ready for it. I think it's more time. I agree with you. Podcasting, you don't need to see anyone. It's easier to set up, I have to say. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your preference, right? It's your own personal preference. And I think here the difference is you got to also ask yourself, do you prefer what kind of show you want? You want to interview people, or do you want to be teaching? I personally like a balance of both. Like I like to interview people for the connection, but I also like to teach.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have both.
And the more you do of both of those things, right? Teaching reinforces learning. So you're a student at the same time. I just think there's so many internal benefits. We talk about like building your brand, but really it's about getting to know yourself and your beliefs and becoming more confident in those. And that happens in both of those mediums. I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah. Amazing. And you know what, guys? It's so much easier now to get these things out.
Totally.
Like than ever before. Like I feel like the technology has just really increased. Like I compared to like 5 years ago, and I think with all the technical softwares I would use compared now, like for me, like using this software is so easy to use. You can definitely just testing out for free to see if something you like, try it out or not there. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike. For guys, make sure to check out Mike's website. Okay. And he also follow him on LinkedIn and his podcast, careerbuilderspodcast.com. How many episodes do you have now?
I think we released episode 63 this week. So it's been a little more than a year.
Yeah, check out this podcast. I really like it. He's got some amazing guests on there. So check that out. Thank you so much for your time and insights today, and enjoy your new home. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much, Diana. It's such a pleasure. One conversation at a time, right? And I'm looking forward to our conversations to come in the new year.
Amazing, guys. All right, please give a round of applause. Give your favorite emojis here to thank Mike for his time, and we're going to be back in just a minute. Hello and welcome back to the Career Relaunch Summit. I'm so delighted that you're here. I'm your host, Diana YK Chan. Next up, we have my friend, David Mendoza, who is a career coach and director of Orbit 5. He's going to talk to us about how to thrive as a student in 2021. David is a Toronto-based educator empowering international students to launch meaningful careers that lead to well-being and help them thrive in their new home countries. He's a professor at George Brown College. He leads coaching and educational tourism initiatives that take the learning beyond the classroom and catapults at students' careers. He also runs his weekly webinars where he also invites his guests to teach about a topic to help his students there. All right, so let's welcome my friend, David Mendoza. Let's give a round of applause here, guys.
Hey, Diana. Hey, how's it going?
That's so great to see you.
So good to see you, and it was so good to see Mike as well. It brought memories of the webinar that we did together back in the summer. So I'm delighted to be here with you today. I think this is our third collaboration this year, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. Like we connected on LinkedIn, and then I connected you and Mike as well. I was like, you guys need to connect because both of you serve the international student market. And then from there, I think you got on his podcast, and then we're like, us three, let's collaborate as well. So back in July, we did a webinar for newcomers, new grads, and those who are making a career change. Right, that was our talk, and we talked.
That's amazing, yeah.
And that was so much fun. And one thing, what I really love about your work is you're so passionate about helping international students.
Yeah.
And I see like lately with all your posts, I love that you bring in your passion for food and
Yeah.
to be honest, how we got connected because you were asking like, what's your favorite place to travel? Or what's your favorite cuisine here? That's how we got connected. Talked about networking on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And you know what? I want to ask you, how are you doing? Because it's so much work that you have put into, organizing this event. 20 interviews, I think you're going to have like throughout the entire event. So how are you feeling? Like how's it going for you?
Thank you for asking that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm feeling great. Like I definitely on a high yesterday. I have to admit, by the end of the session with Anna yesterday, when I was doing my key learnings, my energy level really dipped. And that hour of like before dinner time, I was mentally exhausted. I was like, okay,
I can only imagine.
And that's when my husband said, maybe next time, just only do a few a day, 10 a day.
You know what's beautiful, Diana, and I think this is a huge lesson for everyone in the audience, is that you were able to put together something so special and bring very special people to talk to a massive audience by asking a question. Right? You asked the question, we had a relationship already. Maybe with other folks, you had a relationship too. Maybe with other folks, it was the first time you ever reached out to them. Yeah. Asking a question, it's all it takes, right? So I'm honored to be here alongside these incredible speakers. Yeah. Thank you very much for including me. I'm very appreciative of that.
Like one thing I just want to quickly share a lesson here is share your why. For me, I remember reaching out to you guys. Within a week, I got, pretty much everyone lined up. And I shared my why. My why is to give back in a big way this holiday season. Yeah. And here's my intention, my vision. And pretty much everyone said yes to this. And so honestly, without the speakers, I would not have a summit. So David, why don't we kick things off with what's one thing most people don't know about you?
I'm going to say I'm a language guy. So I don't know if people know, but I love languages. I am fluent in 3 languages. My first language is Spanish. I'm Colombian, born and raised. I moved to Canada in 2006, 14 years ago. So my second language is English. Third language is Portuguese. So I speak those 3 fluently, and I can get by in 3 more. I can get by in French, Italian, and German.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Multicultural, multilingual here. I love that. Amazing.
And you know what? And languages, they have helped me open a lot of doors in my career as well. Especially, for example, when you mentioned the educational tourism and the culinary tours that I have had the chance to lead across the world, having those languages was something that I was able to talk about that helped open doors and made my job way easier when I led tours, for example, in countries like Brazil, Costa Rica, Peru, Spain, Portugal, right? Now that's why I'm brushing on my Italian and my German, and see if in the future I can do some tours in those countries as well. That would be lovely.
I'll tell you, that's going to be your differentiating factor. Okay. I know from my recruiting experience, it's so hard to find people, good people as well, being multilingual. So the fact that you speak more than 3 languages, like that is a great differentiation factor there. So guys, if you speak more than 1 language, type in #multilingual.
Yeah, and that's what language do you speak?
Well, lovely to hear. I'm curious to know, because that's going to be your differentiation. Yeah. I'm also curious to know what got you to start your business. Why did you start your business?
Oh, thank you for asking that. You know what? I had a very negative experience growing up within the education system that I was part of, right? After I graduated, that mostly high school. Then I went to university. I have a bachelor's in business from back home in Colombia. And I did not enjoy it as much either. So it was also a negative experience. So when I finished my degree, I randomly found an opportunity to teach English as a second language. It had nothing to do with my degree, but it completely changed my life, because I started seeing that I had the ability to help people progress in something that they wanted to progress. And I saw the people power that they could, the power that they have if they wanted to invest in something for themselves, right? So what I decided to do was turning a negative experience that I had myself into something very positive for the students that I work with. And that's why I'm so passionate about education. I'm so passionate about experiential learning, and I'm so passionate about just helping students, take their next steps.
I love that. I love to hear that. What's a proud client success story of yours from this year?
Okay. So I have a very nice story. And actually this student was my last guest speaker for the last webinar that we did this week on Monday. This is a student from Colombia who came to Canada almost 2 years ago. And when we had the first conversation, she started telling me about her story, about how she was a professor of corporate finances in one of the most reputable universities in South America. She had worked for multinationals and brought millions of dollars to those companies. She has an MBA from Spain. She came to Canada and did 2 programs here, but she was completely lost when she graduated this year, right? When we had those conversations and then I started hearing her story, I was so inspired. And I asked her, okay, let's have a look at your LinkedIn profile. And I saw it. And I asked her, do you think that what is in your LinkedIn profile is doing any justice to the story that you just shared with me? And she's like, no. It was 2 lines that she had in her about section. Her headline was very generic. It didn't tell anything to anyone, right? Yeah. So we started there. We started having that conversation. We started like working on her brand so that she could promote herself better. And we started targeting places and, helping her to connect with people for informational interviews. She, at the beginning, of course, it was awkward for her because she was not used to that. And in Colombia, you don't do that, right? Yeah. Also, that's something that I do in the work that I do with students, because in other cultures, the way that you find work is very different, right? In Colombia, you just send resumes. That's it. Informational interviews, I don't think it even exist there. So it was interesting because for some people might think, if you are very new to the country, right, you might feel lost. But she had been here for almost 2 years and she was feeling completely lost, right? She managed to land over 50 informational interviews throughout the summer. So
50?
50, right? 50. She was not targeting 10 people or 15 people in each of the companies that she wanted to work for. She was targeting 20 people, 25, right? So with the changes that she had made in her profile, by working on those artifacts, the LinkedIn, her resume, preparing herself to articulate her thoughts and her value in a more cohesive way, she landed all those interviews. And recently she found an incredible senior financial analyst position at one of the largest financial corporations in Canada, right? So it was a beautiful success story for her, for the community of Orbit 5. And you have no idea how, for the students on Monday, we listened to her and her son in the webinar. It was so inspiring because I brought like great speakers and they loved that. But for them to see that one of the members of the communities has achieved something that big, it was the triumph of one of us is a victory for the entire community. So it was incredible. Yeah. So she was teaching other people. Now she's teaching how you can land informational interviews and make the most of them.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to quickly summarize some key learnings, and I want you guys to type this in there. This is the consistent message I've been hearing. Hashtag brand building. Hashtag storytelling, right? Or share your story. I'm hearing also hashtag informational interviews.
Yeah.
These are some 3 key learnings, and this is a great, what we've been reinforcing from day 1 summit as well, from speakers like Austin and Jonathan as well. But 50 informational interviews is a lot, right? And to me, that definitely showcased leadership, eagerness, proactiveness, taking initiative. People, employers love to see that. Okay. Love, love, love. So what's been your biggest
lesson? You know what, Diana, just now that you mentioned Austin, she did a value proposition project. I think that concept is so brilliant and VVP. Everybody should adopt it, the VVP, right? Because she had 3 interviews at the financial institution, right? With the person who was going to be the manager, with the director of the division, and with the vice president, right? And she put together a VVP, and also we are sure that what was one of the defining factors for her to get the offer, right? So brilliant. Please make sure that you start thinking about the VVPs that you want to put together for next year's, because they can help you get your foot in the door for sure.
For those who don't know what VVP is, just Google search Value Validation Project. Austin's blog post will come up. Take a read at it. I've shared it with many clients as well. People love it. So that's like his signature VVP. Okay.
Incredible.
Yeah. So let's one more question before we dive into your topic here is what's your biggest lesson learned in 2020?
Oh, you know what? My biggest lesson was to always have a plan B. So I'm going to tell you a story. So last year I was, we got an email to apply, if we were interested to apply to teaching positions in China. Right, the college where I teach here in Toronto, George Brown, they have a partnership with the University of Shanghai, the Shanghai Institute of Tourism. and I applied and I got it, right? So I planned my entire first semester around that opportunity, incredible opportunity, right? And then in February, they told us, of course you cannot go, right? You cannot go because there's not even flights getting there, right?
Yeah.
So then it's very important to always have a plan B, especially now jumping to 2021. Always have a plan B, because we are living in times of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. Even if you go, for example, to a job interview and you think you did incredibly well, always have your plan B still in case that doesn't pan out. So I think that was the biggest lesson, as well as understanding that you cannot progress the way you want to progress if you just go on your own, right? If you ask for help, you will you will go farther. Yeah.
Yeah. Hashtag ask for help. We said that yesterday and today as well. Love that. Love that. Yeah. Let's get into your topic. Actually, I'm going to answer a quick question here. Someone asked any resources for storytelling. I'm going to do a quick shameless plug because I love storytelling, and I have a mini course called Master Your Glowing Introduction. It's my signature framework. So guys, check out my website on mymarketability.com/courses. It's a mini course that I have, and I've been running networking events to teach people how to master their story there.
Nice.
Okay, so let's go into your topic, how to thrive as a student 2021, David.
Yeah.
What are the main challenges students face when it comes to networking and landing jobs or internships?
I'm going to say there are three main challenges that students are facing right now. And before I answer the question, I want to say that I think that right now, it's never been more challenging to be a student. But at the same time, I think it's never been more fascinating time to be a student as well, right? Because there's a lot of problems to be solved. There are problems now that did not exist in 2019, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of possibilities for students to start thinking about what are the new problems that are out there that we can solve with our intellect, with our abilities, with our talents, right? Now, the main three challenges, I'm going to say the first one, confidence. When I say confidence, is you feeling intimidated to reach out to people who can expedite your work prospects or who can give you insights into the industries that you want to break into, right? So because you're a student, right? And it doesn't happen only with very young students, it happens with mature students as well, right? When you reach out to someone, you always feel the intimidation. Oh my God, is this person, right? They work at a senior managerial position. They are the CEO of a company. They're a recruiter, right? Don't feel intimidated. What I say students, I think in your case is actually easier, right? Because the person understands that you're a student, that you are studying your journey. So you don't need to think about the value that I brought $20 million in a company. No, you can be yourself and genuinely connect with people to ask questions, right? So confidence, I think, don't feel intimidated. At the end of the day, I tell students, understand that the other person that you're trying to connect with is a human being just like you are. They have a better title, they make more money maybe, but you have the same intellect. You are the same flesh and bones, right? So I'm going to say confidence would be the first one,
I love that. I'm going to chime in and say, even if you feel intimidated, do it anyways.
Yeah.
Right? At first, I'll tell you guys, I'm going to admit this too. I felt intimidated, contacting Austin and like Joshua, like they have a huge following. I did it anyways. I was like, this is my mission. Do you want to be part of this mission here?
Right. I think that's a beautiful point that you raised, Diana, because I think when you expose yourself to things that you're not used to or to people that you have never talked to, it helps you grow and it helps you like build strengths, etc. For me, for example, 3, 4, 5 years ago, being in front of a camera, never, right?
Yeah.
By exposing myself every single Monday since the pandemic started with a weekly webinar, live webinar, because my webinars are live. I have, like growth that have grown like in imaginable ways. For example, the student I was telling you about, absolutely at first she felt intimidated about reaching out to people for those informational interviews, but those things prepare her so well to ace the real interviews that she was invited to attend. So expose yourself. The second challenge that I see that students face for that prevent them from networking effectively and landing jobs or internships, I think this ties in with the conversation that you were having with Mike a few minutes earlier, communication, right? And this is not only international students, because some people might think, oh, a language barrier. No, it's students in general, right? Communication, because we are in an era where communication is very quick, right? Where it's text only, it's, all that stuff that we know, right? So communication. So what are some of the things that you can do to improve your communication? And that includes your verbal communication, your non-verbal communication, your writing abilities, your listening abilities as well, right?
Yeah.
For writing, for example, LinkedIn, post content on LinkedIn. It is an incredible platform for you to enhance your written communication abilities, because you have the limit of 1,300 characters, so you're forced to write concisely. And you need to write concisely when you start a job, because you need to send proposals, you need to send emails, etc. So that would be one thing. For verbal communication, for example, in the case of international students, right? Go check out the services that are available at your institution, a conversation hub, a tutoring learning center, stuff like that. Yeah. I have, for example, I remember I had a student a few years ago, and he was very anxious about applying for his internship. And he would say, he came to me and he said, David, what happens if I cannot find an internship? And I asked him, what makes you think that you cannot find an internship? And he's like, well, English is not my first language. I have an accent. So I told him, English is not my first language either, and I have an accent as well. Do you understand me? He's like, yeah. Okay, I understand you as well. So we are communicating. But if that is the main challenge that you have identified, what have you done to overcome that challenge? He's like, So I said, have you gone to the Career Center? No. Have you joined one of the conversation clubs? No. Where are you from? China. Who do you hang out with? Oh, my Chinese friends are waiting for me here. Buddy,
I can relate to this. That's what I saw in my high school. Yeah.
Exactly. Help us help you, because you are making such a massive investment. You're paying thousands of dollars, and you're telling me that you're just changing geographic locations.
Yeah.
And you're going to sit down only with the people who speak your native language? Please no, right? So communication, verbal communication, listening. There's so many resources right now to improve your listening abilities, right? Podcasts. For example, find podcasts in your industry of interest, right? Not only you will improve your listening abilities, because you need to listen attentively when you are in a conversation with a manager, with a supervisor, so that you understand fully the task that is being given to you, right?
Yeah.
When you talk to a potential customer, you need to have incredible listening skills, right? Yeah. So all those things. So I want to say communication is one of the challenges that they need to work on as well. And the third one, it's creativity. I'm going to say creativity in the way, in creativity in terms on how to get noticed in the labor market, right? And we've been talking about this for the past 2 days, right? It's more effective if you actually think outside the box to get someone to actually grab their resume in their hands, right? Yeah. By a referral, by a connection, etc. I'm not saying stop applying online altogether. No, because look, I had a guest speaker 2 weeks ago as well in my webinars, and he's working for one of the biggest corporations in Canada. He's working for the CBC, right? He told me, David, I applied online on a Friday. 10 days later, I had an offer, right? So it happens as well, but it's just the longest way. And we are telling you that in this panel, we're telling you try connecting with people and get those referrals, because it has worked very well for us and for the career opportunities that we have created for ourselves. So get creative, I think, is the third challenge that students are facing for 2021.
Perfect. So I'm going to move on to the next question. I saw that someone here too. It's around managing rejection. What someone also mentioned, I've reached out, feel discouraged because I don't hear back. What should I do? And I think this also ties into or even managing rejection through interviews as well. How do you really deal with that?
You know what? I think the first thing that you have to do when you get rejected is acknowledging the emotions that you're going through. Right? Mm-hmm. Because look, if it's a job that you really want to, right? It's a job that you did your research, you understand the company, and you just got rejected. Acknowledge, because it's better to acknowledge that and grieve the rejection than going into denial, right? Because then you start bottling up all these emotions, and then it can explode, right? So do that. Acknowledge the emotion first. Have an honest conversation with yourself as well about what happened and about what can you take from that experience for learning so that you come back stronger into your next opportunity. I love something that Jonathan Javier says, rejection is redirection. And I think it's such a brilliant statement, right? Because sometimes when you get, and again, Diana, like it's a fact that all of us will experience rejection some way or the other, not only in career, but in life, right? So acknowledge the rejection, see it as an opportunity for growth, for learning, right? And start and talk about it with other people, so that you can navigate the situation better. And don't let rejection define you. I think that's very important as well.
That's amazing. David, this is a great segue around mental health, which I know this is a passion topic of yours, like how to manage your mental health during tough times. And I have to tell you, I received some message yesterday from clients and others that, coming to this summit has just been really enlightening and refreshing because 2020 has been such a tough year.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this, like how can you really manage your mental health during these difficult times?
Thank you very much for asking this question, because I think it's a very important topic for all of us to be aware of, right? One of the good things that COVID-19 brought to the table is that now people understand that mental health is actually a reality, right? It's not like, like you feel you're depressed. Oh, stop crying, man up. No, right? We understand that this is a reality. And this is very dear to my heart, because the class that I teach at George Brown is called Career and Life Transitions. And my students are students who are facing mental health and addiction challenges, right? So I've been heavily involved in the mental health spectrum. One of the things that we have to understand about mental health is that the problem is that usually people associate mental health with the illness, yeah? But in reality, we all should strive for mental health. Because without mental health, there is nothing. You can have your strategy, you can have your network, you can have your plan, but if your mental health is not on point, it's going to be very hard for you to fulfill your goals, right? So one thing that you can do, and again, like so many people have been impacted, and I'm gonna say something, I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I think more people are gonna die actually by mental health related issues than the virus itself, right? So when you feel that something is off, that you're not 100%, again, acknowledge that and understand that you're not alone, right? Because the problem is that most people don't talk about that because of the stigma that lies around mental health. In Canada, we have been open about this topic, and we have been openly talking about it for the past 6-7 years. Still, it's a bit stigmatized, right? But in other cultures, it's highly stigmatized. So imagine, for example, a student from India, from Vietnam, from Colombia, from Brazil, and they feel depressed, for example. And they're like, I don't know what I feel. I can't talk to anyone, because when I remember that I heard back home that mental health is a synonym for weakness, right? So understand that you're not alone. Reach out for help. So if you have, that's why it's very important for everyone to manage their mental health and strive for mental health, to have a strong network of support around them, especially in times of COVID-19. Yeah. So reach out to people. Yeah. By doing that, you're going to open a conversation maybe with your friends, right? And you never know that conversation can help other people also opening up about the same struggles that they have and that they never had the chance to talk about, right? If you don't feel comfortable talking with your friends, for example, as a student, go and again, use the resources available within your institution. Talk to a counselor. Depending on the city, if you're not a student, but depending on the area where you live, the government has systems and places, available for you to have these conversations as well, right?
Yeah.
So talk about it. Really look for activities that can help you for self-care, right? So, for example, for me, it's cooking, right? And you know that I'm big with food and that, and that's why I'm even like diversifying my content a little bit. Every Sunday, I like throw like a recipe that with an analogy with the career spectrum, right? So for me, cooking is an incredible thing to do on a daily basis that brings me somewhere. A lot of peace. So find about things that work for you. Self-care is very important, right? If you need to take a break, take a break. right?
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the things that people can do in order to keep their mental health on point. It's very important.
I love that. David, when things open up, I'm going to be coming over to enjoy one of your meals.
I would love to have you over. And since I know that John Tam is here in Toronto as well, we should have a get together and cook like a very multicultural meal.
Oh, I will love that. I will love that. I love seeing your videos around food. It's amazing. So I love this. Any final words on advice for 2021?
Yeah, so just again, focus on the things that you can control. Take this time to redefine your life, redefine your objectives, to really appreciate what really matters in life. I think a lot of us, realize that the material things come and go, but the things that matter, your family, your friends, the relationships that you make, are the things that you really have to cultivate, right? So strive for mental health, reach out for help. There's a beautiful community of support here in LinkedIn. This is a beautiful community of support. For example, look, I think that one of the things that I'm most grateful for 2020 is the people that I have met in this platform, because I actually became active with the platform in January this year, right? One of these people that I met, and then we have collaborated a few times this year, he sent me a voice note on WhatsApp yesterday, right? And he was like, David, how's it going? I just wanted to check in on you. Also want to tell them I'm feeling burned out, right? So for me, to this person to have the trust to tell me and to open up about that, I think is incredible, because then we can start a conversation, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Strive for mental health, talk to people, lean on the community, and tell your story. Use LinkedIn.
Amazing.
Still, it's an incredible platform. And thank you so much for this.
This is so good. David, I'm going to give a call to action to the audience here, because we've been talking about informational interviews. I want you guys, if you have a LinkedIn, share your LinkedIn profile URL with each other here. And then I also want you to share what you're happy to talk about. Like, I would like to share my expertise in this, or I would like to learn more about this. Okay. Like, this is also an opportunity for you to network. Share your URL. Okay. Talk about what would you like to learn, or what would you like to offer in terms of helping others, right? This is all about paying forward, and you just never know what may unfold from something like this. So that's my call to action for you guys to start doing that. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Much love, Diana. All the best. You're a powerhouse. It's so good.
Well, happy holidays, and I'm sure we'll be in touch in the new year where I get to.
Yeah, you're gonna be my first. My first webinar of January. You're gonna be my guest speaker. Yeah.
2021. So
hey,
guys,
do you wanna take a selfie? You're forgetting again. Come on, you forgot with Mike and with Seema.
Guys, someone need to remind me of selfies here. Thank you. Let's do this here. Oops. All right, let's look at the camera here. Awesome. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah.
Love the selfie. So guys, make sure to check out David's website and sign up for his weekly webinars there. So happy holidays. Thank you so much. And we'll be back in just a moment here. Hello and welcome back to the Career Relaunch Summit. I'm so delighted that you're here. I'm your host, Diana YK Chan. So next up, we have Lisa Plain. She is a career discovery expert and career coach and founder of Career Balance Coaching. She's here to talk about finding your career change superpower. Lisa is also the co-founder of Golden Path Learning, and she's also co-host on the Career Builders podcast with Mike Bird. She's also a certified professional coach. She was a former CPA who felt there was something missing in her career, and she undertook a journey of self and career discovery to find that missing piece, and now is on a mission to help other high-achieving professionals to do the same. All right, are you guys ready? Let's give Lisa a round of applause here. Give me your favorite emojis. welcome Lisa. Hello, hello. Oh, I can't hear you yet. Make sure you're unmuted. Are you at check the settings on the, yeah. No problem. If you check the settings, make sure your input is to your mic. No, I can't hear you yet. Maybe just unplug or even log out and log back in. This music is making you guys dance. I love that. Okay, who danced to the music? Yeah, try unplugging. Okay, Lisa's going to join back in. No problem. She's going to join back in. We have a little bit of technical difficulties. No problem here. So guys, what are you learning so far? What's been the takeaway? Tell me. Hasn't it been amazing so far? Like we had Seema, where we talked about the soul purpose and finding your alignment, what feels good. And then we talked to Mike as well in terms of communicating effectively, being succinct and structured. And then we just talked with David about mental health, of taking care of selves. I'm huge on self-care, just to let you know. Actually, before COVID, I used to love going for like a massage once a week. Sorry, not once a week. Like, this is what I'm thinking right now. Once a month. And I would go for like do a facial once a month as well. But since COVID, I haven't had the chance to do that anymore. So I have my own self routine at home where I have these like facial rollers to do my own facial massages or do my own self-care there. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. What are some of your favorite self-care activities? You know, for me, it could also be just enjoying a cup of tea. I recently purchased a diffuser where, just to make my office smell nice as well. So those are some little self-care activities that I do there. So, okay. So Lisa is back. Let's see. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Good.
Woo. Nothing like a little technical difficulties.
Things happen. That's okay. And I need to think on the spot of what to say.
Well, what I was saying before is thank you so much for having me. This is such an amazing event, and I've been loving all of the guests and learning from every one of them. So this is amazing.
Oh, thank you. I feel so blessed to have such amazing guest speakers. Like you just jumped on board to say yes. And I really feel this high vibrational energy right now in this space. Like people are just giving the love, giving the support, exchanging like contact information to help each other. So Lisa, why don't we kick things off with what's one thing most people don't know about you?
So sort of along the same lines as David, actually, I almost went to culinary school when I was deciding to do an MBA to go into accounting or to go to culinary school. I ended up choosing accounting because, it was the right thing to do, but I love cooking and it's definitely a hobby of mine now.
And can you tell us about your pivot story from being a CPA to coaching? That's a big change.
It was a big change. And it actually ties kind of to my talk today because it really, I have this superpower that I'm a connector. So I was using my superpower in my accounting work. I was doing well. I was being successful. I was getting promotions, but something was missing for me and I wasn't exactly sure what it was at first. So I hired a career coach myself, really undertook a huge self-discovery journey and discovered that at the end of it, what was missing was connecting people to successful careers, successful information. And I really love, I've always been interested in self-discovery and, just helping people to achieve all sorts of things, psychology, that kind of thing. So to merge my corporate experience with that self-development world, it just made sense with coaching.
Oh, I love that. And what's been your biggest lesson learned for 2020?
Honestly, just finding connection and support from all sorts of different areas and continuing to find opportunity in these challenging times, because sort of, again, similar to as David said, but it's all about finding a plan B and being able to pivot. And a lot of that comes from having support of the people around you.
Yeah, that's great. Let's jump into your topic on finding your career change superpower. I love this topic. So let's start things off with, what is a superpower?
So a superpower, when you think about it in a comic book or a movie setting, it's usually somebody who has superhuman abilities. And while we might not think that we have superhuman abilities day to day, we're all the hero in our own story. And when it comes to our career, there's likely one thing that we are very good at and that we love doing, more so than most of the people around us. So you don't need to be the only person who's good at that thing, but it's likely that you're better at it than most of the people around you.
So that's something what I'm hearing, what I used to like to say too, what you just naturally excel at.
Exactly.
You naturally excel at. I love that. I love that. And how do you find your superpower?
Your superpower is honestly all about self-awareness. And the funny thing is, so because it's such a natural thing for you, it's a blind spot for a lot of us. We don't even realize that it's our superpower because we're so good at it. We think that everybody else must be good at it too. So undertaking some of these self-discovery exercises to figure out, what am I really good at? What do I also really love to do is really important. But there's a couple of questions that I always ask people when they're thinking about their superpower. So number one, what makes you weird? Love it. Honestly, what makes you weird? What makes you stand out? What are you a little bit maybe embarrassed of? And maybe it's something that you were weird as a kid. I used to ask a million questions to people constantly, and I'm sure it drove my parents crazy, but it's really turned into a genuine curiosity of finding information. So you can use that superpower and, in all sorts of different ways. The second question that I ask people is ask people that you trust what your superpower is. Ask your friends, your family, your coworkers. Sometimes they can see you a little bit differently and you may hear something that resonates with you. Yeah. And then the last question is to think about what people compliment you on and start to notice trends. So you might have people at work asking you, how do you figure things out so quickly all the time? And maybe you just have a really great methodology of researching and finding information. So all of those ways are great ways of finding your superpower.
I love this. Guys, let's type it in. # self-discovery, # superpower. What else? So I heard around asking people of like what your superpowers are, right? And what are the compliments that you usually get? And I'm curious, I want to hear this from you guys, because I know a lot of times people have trouble even owning their own superpower. So I'm giving you permission to claim your superpower right now. And I want you to type in here. Type in the chat room with us. Tell us like what's your superpower. So how would you answer yours? Like what makes you weird, Lisa? You talked about like I love asking questions.
Yeah, I love asking questions. And I also, so because I'm a connector, I often can place people in situations. I don't always remember names, but if somebody comes to me and says, I want to go into a career in this, I will have met somebody 10 years ago who's in that field, and I'll remember and I'll reach out to that person and connect the two people. So yeah, and some people find it weird. They're like, how do you remember who I am? I'm like, it's just a thing.
Yeah, I'm a connector. Like a client tells me something. I'm like, oh my God, you should talk to so-and-so. I'm like, I need to put you in touch with so-and-so. That's just me. Like I naturally just connect the dots that way, or I'll promote someone. I'll be like, yeah, you got to hire this person, or this person's great. So I'm a big promoter. I love promoting people. Like I referred, the company that my husband works at, like 100 people, throughout the last years to there. Like I'll promote people. Like that's one of my superpower, and to really like just promoting talent there. So I love this. How to find the right career that uses your superpower?
It can be a tricky one. The thing is that you don't want to focus only on your superpower. There's a lot more that plays into it. A lot of people only focus on their skills and their interests, but you also want to pay attention to what motivates you and also your values. When I was in accounting, I was using my superpower and it was great. I was being successful, but it wasn't fulfilling me. So you want to make sure that the career that you choose is using your superpower in the right way. You can sometimes think about, superpowers gone wrong in movies and stuff like that. And your superpower can also be used in the wrong way. So you want to make sure that you are really paying attention to what it is that lights you up and when do you feel most alive. That's a great use of your superpower.
Yeah. When do you feel most alive? I love that question, because that's just when you're in your element. right?
Exactly.
And that's how I've been feeling right now. Like even just running this summit, like, my friends been texting me and all that. They're like, I don't know how you can do this. My friend Betty messaged me last night. This is a huge, massive undertaking. I don't know how you're doing this. But honestly, I feel really in my element. Like I feel really good. It lights me up. I feel energized. Like I'm pumped up. That's how I feel. Yeah.
And I have a quick story to share too of a client who he was just starting out. He was transitioning from being a teacher to going into sales. And he was looking for jobs, cold calling. He was searching for a few months, wasn't having any luck. So we dug a little bit deeper into what makes him unique and his superpower. And it turns out coming from the teaching world, he's amazing at building relationships. So he was going into these jobs where it was very transactional with the cold calling. It was, have a quick conversation and it's over. Once he uncovered that his superpower was this relationship building longer term, he started going after roles where he would be selling something higher end, where it was a longer sales cycle, where he was actually building the relationships. And it was amazing. Within a month after that discovery, he ended up finding a job, not as an entry level, but actually as an intermediate salesperson. So just that knowledge can really change the way that you approach your job.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's a great insight. And I've seen this right now too. Like, I have some clients who are in sales, in their entire career, like 20 years, and they're more in the difference between like farming versus hunting, being in a hunting role, but they hate it, but they love the relationship building aspect. So then we would just look at more the relationship building type of sales role versus like a hunter role. So sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be a big pivot. It could be like a slight adjustment, but looking at your preferences as well in terms of the type of roles that you enjoy doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love this. And so how can one leverage their superpower to their advantage in a job search?
So just as we talked about, you can use it to target the roles that are right for you. Once you have that targeted approach, it's going to be so much easier for you to go forward, put yourself out there. It also gives you a lot more confidence. That internal knowledge of your superpower gives you an incredible amount of knowledge because you're not just saying words anymore. You're not just talking about strengths as a surface level thing. You're saying, this is what makes me different from all of these other job seekers. And that comes across when you're in interviews, when you're networking, all that kind of stuff. And so you can really bring that forward. And again, just have that conviction and confidence throughout your interview.
Yeah. One of the exercises I love doing with my clients, once they've identified, their superpowers or their top strengths, I also get them to do the assessment test on like the Strengths Finder 2.0 to identify their strengths, is to think about 5 to 7 stories or examples of when you leverage those strengths. And those become your stories of how you differentiated, like how you were weird, how you were just doing something better than anyone else. Is think of those 5 to 7 proud moments or stories where you leverage those strengths. And it could be a combination of your strengths as well. But that's part of how I say like how you can differentiate.
I love that so much.
Yeah, I love this. So guys, is this resonate? What's resonate here? Give us some like key learnings, hashtags here. We'd love to hear from you guys here. Lisa, I'm curious to know, what if one, like figured out their superpower, but they're in the wrong role? How do they go about maybe like making that adjustment, like making that change?
Well, yeah, I mean, this happens to people all the time, and it's not easy transitioning jobs. It's scary. It can be uncomfortable. So the first thing that you want to do is really get a clear direction. Figure out what that next thing is. And it doesn't have to be the next thing that's going to last for the rest of your life. It's just you're looking for the next best thing. And once you find that, it's undertaking networking, finding support, immersing yourself in those new industries. I find that immersion when you're transitioning roles is one of the biggest things. It's often you're learning a new language. You're learning a new language from what you were already in to this new role or industry that you want to go into. So find as many ways, go to events, network with people, read books, listen to podcasts, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, part of it, what I'm hearing, it's testing, experimenting, right? It's exploratory. And this is why informational interviews are important as well as you are looking to make that like change or pivot there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point too. When you dive in, and you can also do this as sort of an experiment, a thought experiment as well. You can think about what will it be like in this role? And if there's areas that you're worried about or things that you're concerned about, you can find more information, you can do more research, you can talk to more people so that you have a full picture of what you're getting into.
Yeah. I mean, as you're talking about this, I'm also thinking how you can really try out different roles. Like when I think about my career as well, I always knew I had a passion for people, good with people. So I went into like consulting and then went into recruiting and then coaching. They're all related to people, but as you experiment these different roles, you realize there are certain aspects you like and certain aspects you don't like. Right?
Absolutely.
And you can also be multi-passionate, like something I've also learned. Like as a coach, I also love speaking and I love training.
Absolutely.
Right. So you can leverage all of that. And I don't know, have you seen that in some of your clients where they're multi-passionate and they're thinking of multiple things that they want to do and how they go about navigating that?
Absolutely. And another great opportunity actually when you are in that multi-passionate space is to have a side hustle. Have other things that are going on that you can try out while you're still working in the role that you're in. You can have multiple side hustles depending on what you love. And sometimes you'll find that the side hustles or the passions come together in ways that you didn't expect once you dive into them. It's really just taking that first step.
Yes. # side hustle, guys. Type that in. And I want to hear if any of you started a side hustle. I'm curious to hear what that is, a side hustle. I feel like, with all the changes right now that's happening, and there's actually a stat, I was actually asking Andrew Seema about this, that, despite a lot of business have been impacted during COVID here, there has been a spike of over 40% of new businesses started this year compared to last year. Right. And so, when there are times of difficulty, there's also opportunities as well. And part of it could be starting a side hustle to experiment and to grow and to see if this is something you really want to do or not.
Exactly. And going back to what Mike was talking about too, if you undertake something like a podcast or, even content creation, that can be the start of a side hustle or new thing as well. There's so many opportunities out there in this time that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we have some time for questions. If you want to ask Lisa any question, let's see if we can take on some questions here. We went through our questions pretty quickly.
I'm very concise.
Are you very good? Boom, boom, boom. What else here? What questions do you have, guys? I want to hear your questions. Lisa, can you maybe share with us a story, like a proud client success story? So I know you specialize in the career discovery work. Can you maybe walk us through the journey of someone going about making that change or discovering their superpower?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a client who was in contract management, and she'd been doing it for a long time. She enjoyed the work, but it wasn't something that she loved. She came to me and she actually thought that she might be interested in becoming a teacher. And I'm always interested to hear what people think when they first come to me versus what they actually end up doing, because oftentimes there's pieces of their role that will come out in their final decision. But it's really uncovering what they think they like about that particular role. So we went through a lot of self-discovery. We really brought out a number of different values, motivations, really digging in to all of those self-awareness pieces. And through that process, she discovered that she loved interior design. So one of her superpowers was seeing things, like visualizing and having that creative design aspect that she had kind of pushed to the side. It was something that she did in her own life, but she never really thought of making a career out of it. And after our work together, she gained the confidence to realize that she had something special. And she went back to school part-time while she was working and is working toward making the transition as we speak.
Wow, that's amazing to hear. I love that. Like these are like great examples to show you what's possible here. So Brian has a question here. How does one demonstrate these superpowers or strengths on paper or in an online profile, especially for those considered soft skills?
Yes, great question. So on paper, it is definitely more difficult, but you can use the headline section of your resume or the about section of your LinkedIn to give more personality. A lot of people keep that pretty to the point. I do this, these are my skills. But if you go deeper and say why you have these skills, talk about what experiences you have in your life that have given you these skills or that make you stand out different from other people. And that's what people will read more.
I love it. Love it. Guys, hashtag showcase personality, hashtag storytelling. I'm actually going to be talking to Kamara later on this afternoon to talk about, about the LinkedIn profile and resume as well. But what you're telling, and I've seen, like, I don't even know how many thousands now, I want to say millions of LinkedIn profiles as a recruiter, to really stand out. It's not just about, most people just about 10 years of experience in this, right? They list out all the functional area. That's nice, right? In terms of for credibility or keywords. But if you really want to stand out, is to really tell like your why. What's your why? What are your superpowers? What are you known for? A little bit of story, like what most people don't know about you. What gets you excited? That piques curiosity.
Exactly. And so many people are afraid to show their personality in a corporate setting. I've seen this so many times. But the second you do, that's when everything opens up for you.
Can we put in, I don't know what that hashtag is. Hashtag unleash. Hashtag unleash.
Love that.
What I'm hearing is the second you start owning your personality, owning your superpowers, owning your brand, that's when you get opportunities. Hashtag
they can find you.
Yes. So don't play small here. Like if you really want to, stand out in, this highly competitive market right now, you need to start really, staying true to who you are and have your own voice, have your own message. We talked to Mike about having your own sound bites, having your own taglines, right? That's how you're going to be memorable there, right? So don't be, what's the word? Generic, vanilla.
Yes.
Right? Find your brand. Like even I wanted to share, like even like with my summit here, I'm all about branding. So can you guys tell like what's my favorite color here? What's my brand color? It's blue, right? Clearly I've sprinkled blue all over here. Right? And that's part of my brand. That's part of owning it. I love that. I love sparkles. That's why you see the sparkles here in the background as well. I have like my quotes. So I want to encourage you guys to own that, because when you own that, that's how you're going to be memorable. And that's what Lisa's talking about right now, is like owning your own superpower, right? Because that's like, to me, it's like magic, right? The secret sauce of what defines you. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Right? You own that superpower there. Oh, amazing, amazing. Oh, we have another question here. Should you work on your weakness when it is hurting your strength? What is a good balance? This is from Lydia. Should you work on your weakness when it's hurting your strength? What is a good balance?
That's a great question. I'd be interested to hear an example.
I think I know who this is. Like, I think for background, for context here, should you work on your weakness when it's hurting your strength? What's a good balance? So I think I know is that the context is you're in a role. I know in this case, it's like, being like an analytical role, like, but having this strength or passion for people as well, but you're not really doing a job that is in that. But it doesn't mean like she's weak in that though. I don't know if I got the question right. Should you focus on working on your weakness there? Yeah.
If I could just answer this broadly.
Yeah.
I don't recommend people working on their weaknesses in general, unless it's something that you find is something that's really going to excel your career overall. But by focusing on your weaknesses, you end up trying to become a bit of a generalist or trying to be good at too many things. Whereas when you focus on your strength or your superpower, you're going above and beyond with that specific skill. Yeah.
Actually, studies have shown, I know the Gallup organization that does the Strengths Finder test, when you focus on your strengths, your productivity increases, your performance increases, your ability to get more opportunity increases as well. It's actually better to focus on your strengths than your weaknesses there. So if you're in a role or the wrong role that's not leveraging your strengths, you're not going to feel as fulfilled, but second is you're not going to feel like you're performing as well or that you're reaching your full potential. So I think at the end of the day, you definitely want to leverage your superpowers and your strengths there.
Mm-hmm.
Find that right role, right? And the more you continue seeking that, you're going to feel more fulfilled, right? Like when I was in consulting, even though I thought in a human capital consulting, I thought that was people. But what I found is, this is the question you want to ask yourself: what do you spend majority of your time doing? Majority of my time doing in consulting was designing technical training. I was managing a team in India. And that was not fulfilling enough for me. What was fulfilling for me was around empowering, encouraging people to reach their full potential. So you want to ask yourself, how much time are you spending on this? And is that really leveraging your core strengths and interests as well?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this is so good. Go ahead.
I noticed that Lydia had given a follow-up to that. I lost it in the chat.
Oh, she said, weak in communication, passion for people. Should I focus on improving people's skill? Okay, I get it. She has a passion for people, but weak in communication. So to me, this is more a fear or something you can improve on, right? I have a passion for people. When I moved here to Canada, my communication wasn't that strong. I had really weak communication in a sense that I was always shy. I didn't speak up. To me, you can work on improving that. That's more developing confidence and being a better communicator.
Absolutely. And I would also say that it's also about serving. If people are your passion, how are you going to best be able to serve them?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, good. So let's wrap up here. What's your best advice for managing a successful career and job search?
I think that this is something that's been said a couple of times already, but definitely reach out and build your support system. So this can be mentors, peers, coaches, psychologists, also things like podcasts, books, social media presence, people that you follow. When you're going into 2021, determine who you want to be seeing on a regular basis and what messages you want to be receiving, and take that and really run with it.
I love it. That ties back to brand building, hashtag brand building. Amazing. So thank you so much, Lisa. So guys, make sure you check out Lisa's website, careerbalancecoaching.com. Follow her on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and her podcast, careerbuilderspodcast.com with Mike Bird. They have amazing interviews. Thank you so much, Lisa, for chatting with me today. I want to wish you a happy holiday.
Same to you. And thank you so much for bearing with me with my technical challenges. And this is an amazing event. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So guys, please give us a round of applause to Lisa Plainhair. Give me your favorite emoji. Thank you so much. And we will be back in just a minute with our next speaker, Kerri Twigg. Hello and welcome back to the Career Relaunch Summit. I am so delighted that you're here. I'm your host, Diana YK Chan. So next up, we have Kerri Twigg, who's the founder of Career Stories. She's a stories coach and author of the Career Stories Method, which is coming out very soon. She's going to talk to us about how to find your career stories. She's a former LinkedIn top voice of 2018 and top job search expert to follow on LinkedIn 2019. So make sure to follow her. She helps people figure out what makes them awesome and how that helps their career. So let's give a round of applause to welcome Kerri. Hi, Kerri.
Hey, good morning. Wow.
I love your energy.
I love it.
I love that vibe, the energy here. Kerri has this like amazing energy.
I love this top emojis. Great. Thanks, Lydia and Vandana.
Yeah, we've been like here just, giving. I've been saying like give the support and love to our speakers, to each other as well. We're raising the vibrational energy today. And we've been using hashtags of key learnings to reinforce the learnings as well there. So this has been great. And this is a perfect segue having you on just because I just talked to Lisa about superpowers. So what's great having you is about finding your career story. So before we dive in, let's share with the audience, like what's one thing most people don't know about you?
I feel like everyone knows everything, but I think most people are a bit surprised to find out that I'm also a mindfulness coach. So certified mindfulness coach. Most people don't know that. Did you know?
Ooh. I didn't know you were certified, but I knew that you'd been teaching meditations on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think I just teach them, but they're like, I actually went and got certified so that I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Can you give some backstory around that? Like what got you to pursue that and what do you love about it?
Yeah, so probably an imposter thing, but every time you think about telling a story or being yourself, so much about it, everyone says that you have to have a mindfulness practice to grow. And I had my own meditation practice. I've been meditating for 10 years, but I was like, I don't know how to teach people, and I don't want to be ridiculous and like teaching them something and they have a bad experience, or how do you build the skills, or like, what are we actually doing? So I went and did a certification through Unified Mindfulness with this guy, Shinzen Young, who does lots of experiments where he like puts those like head stickers on people and watches machines to be like,
oh my goodness,
what skills are you learning? And the biggest skills that meditation teaches is concentration. So I think every job seeker needs to be able to concentrate, like focus on what you want to focus on, whether it's in an interview, whether you're writing a resume, whether you're on the job. Sensory clarity, like being aware of our bodies and what they're doing. And then equanimity. So not spending so much time in the past, like what did I mess up? Or dreaming of the future. I'll be happy when I have a job, but how can you find, peace right now in this current moment?
I love this. I know this is not the topic, but I love this because I've had a lot of people message me last night saying that this has been so helpful, this summit, and it's been such a tough year. Can you maybe just offer like 3 quick tips around like mindfulness to help people with just feeling better?
Yeah, like I think so often in mindfulness, people think that it's about shutting down your mind or blocking everything out, but we can do a simple like 10-second meditation right now, just paying attention to the sounds in your room. So let's like everyone just get into a comfortable whatever view. I'm gonna take a moment, close your eyes, and we're gonna for 10 seconds just pay attention to the sounds in the room and go. And then open your eyes. That's a meditation. And like you can do that long. So you could do it like a micro hit. So that's a micro hit where you just might be overwhelmed and you go, just going to come to the moment. What's going on? And no judgment, right? If your dog is barking, not mad, just like, this is what my life sounds like right now.
I love it. You got me instantly more zen with just that little moment there. And I smell the scent of my diffuser. I have the Celebrate essential oil right now on. It smells so nice.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect.
I love it. I love it. What's been your biggest lesson learned in 2020?
Well, I think for me, I'm like, so while I have the spirit of somebody who wants to take risks and go for strange things and is a bit unconventional, I'm pretty safe. So what has helped me the most is just going for what is the least minimal thing that can work for me and celebrating that. So instead of looking at like the year before and being like, oh, I made a lot less money, go, actually, you made enough to live and be with your family. And so that's great. And getting into the habit of celebrating the things that I achieved, not even what I'm grateful for anymore. Just like, what did I achieve today? Hey, I showed up. Hey, I helped someone. Like I got the book out. Although the book is a big thing, but like usually it's micro things. So I think it's that. I've also been homeschooling. So I've cut down my business 50% to teach math and social studies in the mornings to my daughter. And so just that like slowing down and what does it look like when I just create space? And it's been good for me. Yeah.
So many value bombs here, guys. # create space. # be kind to yourself.
You're like the hashtag
slowing
queen.
down. I gotta type these out because I'm gonna be looking at this afterwards. But I love these key lessons and learnings here. That is so, so key. Like what's like these value bombs our speakers are dropping here. So I love this. Shall we go into your topic?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I love this topic. Oh my goodness. Let's dive right in on how to find your career story. So the first one is, why is knowing your career stories important?
Boy, I feel like everyone has touched a little bit on this in terms of, network. Like if you're going to be networking, if you're going to create a resume, if you're going to figure out what your superpowers are, it's really important for you to know what your career story is and how to share that. Because if you don't, it's being created anyhow, and other people will create it for you. So you like, if you don't say it, by the actions that you take, other people are. And I'd rather know what I'm giving off than not know. For a while, it's funny that I'm a meditation teacher, but for a while I was mistaken a lot for a yoga teacher. But if I wanted to work with senior executives and I was giving off a yoga teacher vibe, I needed to be aware of the story and what I was doing that was making people see me in that way, and then make micro changes and change the story that I was telling so people knew what level I was at.
I love that. Change your story to change your perception. I love that, right? Like this is, to me, what I'm hearing is also part of managing your own brand, because that's how people are going to perceive you for, a certain profession or skills that you have to offer. So that is so cool there. The next one is, why do we need more than one career story?
Yeah. So I think there's a big thing in find your why. And I think a lot of people have crafted this wonderful, hey, this is what I'm about. This is why I do the work that I do. And they have a great, tell me about yourself, or a great intro, or their LinkedIn bio is great. But you need to give, it has to have more depth to that. Because if all you have is a splash page or a pretty resume and nothing else to back it up, then you fall flat. Then you're it was a great preview, but there's nothing to it. And the more that you tell stories, and there's really 10 different story types you can tell in a job search once you know your core story, then people get a more rounded version of you, right? And you never feel stuck. I'm going to tell, if I'm a career coach, I'm going to tell you a different story than I'm going to tell, a client about this work. And so also having, no matter who you're talking to, having something to talk about.
Love it, right? What I'm hearing, #depth, #variety here. This is so, so good, which is a perfect segue. You have 10 different types of career stories. What the type of career story should one come up with?
So first, your first one is your core story. So what are your super skills? I think the talk before me gave you some good stuff. I have my own technique. I'll share that. And then if you're just beginning, so having that core one is great. Having some accomplishment stories. So these are things that I accomplished, makes you feel good, helps people to understand. Having some lessons learned stories are really that if you want to start creating content all the time or on a regular basis, starting to pay attention to those. What's another? I guess the one that I see people sticking to is they have a source story, and then all they tell is announcement story. So they're like, I'm speaking here, I'm doing this thing, I'm doing this. And that's just one story type. And so if you are just telling announcement stories, they become less important. But if you were to tell, hey, I went on a walk today, I was surprised because there was a deer, under the fridge, and there's never been a deer here before, and it just let me know that life has some things that are unexpected. So you tell a story like that. Then you tell a story about how you helped a coworker, and then you say, I'm speaking at a conference. So even using those 3 story types makes you more interesting and worth following.
Oh, I love that. It's having that variety. And I think of from a job search standpoint of, you talk about the core story, the accomplishment story, lessons learned story. Another one in for me as a recruiter, from a recruiter, is all that overcoming obstacle stories.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? The failures. I know like Amazon loves asking questions on tell me a time when you failed and what did you learn from it.
Yeah.
Those challenging stories of how you overcome difficult times are great stories to tell.
Yeah. My first viral post on LinkedIn, well, I guess viral for me at the time, was a failure story.
Mm.
And I was scared to share it because I'm like, I don't know, people are going to question our credibility with this one. But because I showed like a fumble, people, and especially like executives, were like, oh, I know that feeling. Like I've been there too. And it create like, we think that people like perfection. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't like perfect people. I'm just like, oh, come on. Like,
Yeah.
I can't.
No one's
I can't
perfect.
stand it. Yeah, I can't stand it. So, yeah, you don't want to have that all the time.
Hashtag authenticity, hashtag vulnerability, right? That's really key. And what I'm hearing is just the relatability, like being relatable, that when
Absolutely.
people feel related to you there. I love this. And which ties in what we're already talking. What are the elements of great career stories, right? Like we just talked about authenticity, and anything else you would add to that when you think about writing that great story or speaking that great story? What are those elements that you really want to consider?
Yeah. So I think like a big part of a great story, I think, is like, and again, it's maybe sounds cheesy, but it's like where the story comes from. So if we come to a story, like we sit down and go, well, I really want to move somebody with this story. Like, how am I going to craft this? I think you're setting yourself up for failure because it already has the energy of trying to impress. Something, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but try like signing into LinkedIn and like later when you're done with the summit, but try like LinkedIn and in your head think, I'm going to impress somebody with my post, and write something with the intention to impress. And then, but also like a little doubt, right? And then the next day, come back and it can be the same story, maybe a different version of it. Come to it with the energy of people love me and they want to hear what I have to say. And then share from there and watch the likes and the interaction. It's like just coming to it from that place. So I think in a great story, I think it's having that intention of being generous, of knowing what makes it interesting, of trying to make it universal, of knowing who you're telling the story to. And then other basics is like put in details.
Yeah.
It's like if the way that story science works is they've done lots of experiments. They'll have people read stories or they'll hear a story and they like tap into their brain. And when specific things are mentioned, like a red coat or a telephone or like, I don't know, the yellow umbrella, it lights up a big area of your brain, right? Of the person who's listening. And then it sends these little like bling, like synapses to I'm not a brain person, but yeah, it sends them to other parts of your brain, which often are tied to emotions. So if you can add a detail to your story that makes someone's brain light up, they are more likely to remember the story, to have an emotional reaction, to build trust with you. And it's also looking at your stories and going, yeah, where can I add a detail? Even if it's, I was working with a client and she said, I fixed the whole file system at this clinic. I was like, cool. And I was like, tell me about the file system. And she's like, okay, like it was a mess, right? And the clinicians there started to hoard files and not return them to reception because it was so hard to get them back. And they always got lost. There was like this weird cubby that was almost dangerous to open, right? So when she started to do that, I started to imagine, like, and I'm sure you can too.
Yeah,
like the time I've had to like, don't put that back. You're not going to get it. I don't trust my coworkers. The system isn't working. Oh, why do we put things there? So by giving those details, she helped me to understand the significance. But when she goes to interviews, everyone else will understand the significance of that. So details.
Oh, I love this one. I teach this a lot too. And for interview prep is the context of helping people understand the significance of the story.
Yeah.
To set the context and stage of like, why did that matter? Like, why was that important? Now, one question I have here is, should you play that contrast or make it dramatic as well to really make people get it? Or is it just being more descriptive?
I think you just have to add detail. Like it depends what you're trying to do with your story, right? So like, in every story you want to be overcoming something, but you don't want every post. Like if every post is like, oh, I met a client and they were, so sad and they didn't know what they wanted. So I came in. Like maybe I just have a client who's like, hey, I'm never making it to the final stage of interview. We met for 10 minutes and we helped. Like, so there should be some sort of change that happens. Either you changed or you help someone else to change or the situation.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need to like really it's simple. And colors, like think about the senses, a color, a smell, it's like something that we can see or taste or feel or hear. If you just give a couple of those details, like we're smart, right? And our brains are like, yes.
Yeah, I love this, guys. Hashtag details, right? Hashtag the emotion. This is what I'm getting. It's like the emotion and also just the ability for people to picture
Yes.
like what you're describing as well.
Yeah.
That is so key. Amazing. So let's move on in terms of what is the first step to finding your career stories? And I know you have some techniques that you shared on Kamara's live show as well recently.
Yeah. So the biggest one that I use and I teach everywhere is grabbing a pack of index cards. So like a simple index card. Getting into like a moment of like reflection and going, when in my career did I leave work feeling really proud and awesome about something that I did? And whatever memory comes up, just jot it down on an index card. And that's it. Next day, come back, same thing. And do this for 7 days. And the reason you do it for 7 days is that if you write it down right now, all you're going to get is the same stories you've always told. Like you're going to go, I was working with a sales guy and I told him to do this. The next day he's like, yeah, I got my 7 stories. And I was like, well, these are all stories that you tell at interviews already. So like, do you want things to change or not? And so he was telling stories about, landing the big deal. But when he actually went back and found like the moments that he was happy, he's actually super great at doing research. And so through taking his time, we were able to find out, that we're a transferable skill. So 7 days, write out your story.
Yeah.
Then, so you have your story at the front of the card.
Yep.
Just the story.
Yeah.
Then on the back of the card, read your story and go, what skills or strengths did I use in this story? And just write them all out on the back of the card.
Okay.
And do that for every story. And then what you're going to have is like 7 cards with 20 different skills, right? But look for skills that keep popping up.
Okay.
Look for skills that get repeated over and over again, no matter what, whether it was a story from 20 years ago or something from last week.
Yeah.
And choose.
Can I clarify something? Like this exercise, do you just write a word or do you write a paragraph or sentence, just a word?
For the story or the skill?
Because I saw only just like one word here. It seems like it's just coming with the phrase first before you do the actual writing.
Yeah. So I just wrote like story, blah, blah, like as an example. It would be longer. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
For the skill, it might be a single word, or it might be like for me, when I did it, I found I would writing, helping people in the muck of it. Because I found that all these stories, I was helping people in the muck of it, which is a very Kerri thing to say. But what was great is that when I finally, when I looked at all my skills, I had, helping people in the muck of it, and I also had problem solving. And so I could use a word that is overused a lot, like problem solving, but I can also use the word in the muck of it to help describe me. And then after you've chosen, the 3 to 4 skills that pop up, that's your core story. So the thing that I'm really great at, and I've always been really good at, and the work that brings me the most joy, because these are things where I feel alive, is being able to help people in the muck of it to solve problems and to build programs. And that is a way of then, when I was selling myself, I no longer needed to use a title or a sector. I could just say that this is how I help. And then I looked for jobs where I got to help people in the muck of it and solve problems.
Yeah. Oh, this is so powerful, guys. This is so powerful. Like, we can write, like, if you fill in the blanks here, it's like, what am I great at, or what am I known for? And you fill in the blanks here. Right.
Yeah.
And that's something, I love that. I love that. All right, let's continue here. And anything else in terms of, I love this exercise. It's like mind blowing. It feels like it's like amazing.
Well, what is, like, I think that's just the simple, and then you can then use that in everything. So that becomes your profile statement. And yeah, you're going to, like, the profile statement in your resume, so that you're using a mix of words, but you might use that in the second line of your profile as, like, known for helping people in the muck of it, solving problems, and building programs. Then I look at my stories and go, well, what other stories could I tell to my target audience about, when I help someone in the muck of it? And then my entire strategy on LinkedIn is really just telling different versions of that story. And then I'm reinforcing my brand, and I don't even need to, at this point, say what my 3 super skills are, because I'm modeling it.
You're modeling the story. Yes. I love that. I love that. Yes. So having that core story and then having different versions of it. Guys, hashtag different versions. I love that, because then you can also tailor to different audience accordingly. Absolutely. Yeah. And you always know, like, if someone says, like, why should we hire you over someone else? Other people, like, your clients will say, well, I don't know who else anybody else is. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. Why, like, what makes you awesome is these 3 things. And so that's what you can say. And it because and it's not an imposter thing. It because you've always done it through your whole career. You've always done these things. Yeah, I'm a big fan of using the power of 3s, like the 3 things I'm really good at or what I'm known for, because that's how people remember things. So I love that. What are the best career stories you've seen? So it's a variety. So I think, like, so what I really love to do is look at people who I think are kind of like, who are popular now or who have transitioned, and then look back at what they were doing. So you had Austin on, right? Yeah, yesterday. So if you look at, like, old Austin, when he's just like a Microsoft employee, to Austin to career, like, you can see the arc, right? And it's really like, so I think, like, I don't know if anyone, I'm just like, oh, I can't, like, I'm amazed. Because most of the people, by the time I meet them, the people I love are, like, our story people. But I think go and look at the people who get named, like, who get named a top voice or get named someone to follow, and go back to see what, like, their old stuff and where it switched. And it might be time consuming, but see if you can name the action that they took and how things started to change. Because you'll see like the numbers go up in likes, you'll see the engagement going up, and you'll see them when they find their thing that they keep doing it, right? So he knows, what he's doing, right? Actually, Show was here yesterday as well. Show Dewan, who's also a LinkedIn top voice. Yeah. And we were saying, it was my first time talking to him yesterday, but I've got to know him because he tells great stories too, of him pivoting into a new country, getting to consulting and getting into coaching. And he's a great storyteller. He tells stories as well, and throughout his posts. Yeah. Yeah. This other person, Jane Helbrecht, she's not doing it on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, she's this is a partner at an HR firm and does these leadership courses. But on Instagram, she's over and she started a thing called Big Work Energy, and about how to embrace your big work energy. And I think she's like, what's cool is that she found her thing, and now she's just sharing it in cool ways.
And so I don't think she's transferred it over to LinkedIn, but I love what she's doing there. I think it's
love it.
it's
So let's see
delicious.
if we can
Yeah.
have time for some questions here.
Mhm.
Can you share a format to index your stories? I have 25 years of storytelling. It's in my DNA, and it can be conflicting on what to share.
Yeah. So when you have your story, like, so for me, I'll put them in Trello. Lately, I've actually been using a program called Scapple, SCAPPL, which is like a mind mapping software. But perhaps you could write them out and like maybe use hashtags to do it. In a Word document, you might say, so say your skills were in like accounting and process improvement, and you had a story that was about accounting and process improvement. You might put it under the same heading twice, right? So the first thing is like if you're indexing your story, a big dump of them, and then identifying, what kind of story it is, what it's highlighting. Airtable would be fantastic too. So what it's highlighting, and then who's going to care? So because we can tell, like I could be the greatest storyteller ever, but if I'm telling a story and I'm not hitting the points of what my audience needs, it's not going to work. So, the stories that matter is the story you tell yourself about not sucking, the stories that you tell other people about your accomplishments, and then the story that they're telling themselves. And you want to go, okay, how does my story fit in with theirs? So also I would write what your target audience is, for it, and why they would care about that would be a good way to sort it.
Do you have a rule of thumb in terms of the length and the structure, like how many paragraphs?
like in
And like writing your story in terms of, let's say, the LinkedIn about summary, for example, is there like a particular flow or structure that you follow? Or when someone introduces themselves, like their elevator pitch to someone, do you have that structure that people follow, or is it more like the elements of it there?
Yeah, so I'm a little like template, but I'm like, no, templates. But I understand why structure matters. So typically, and tell me about yourself. I think it's important to have something at first that's like an engage, like know where you're starting the story and hook them in, right? So I don't want to start my tell me about yourself with like, hey, I'm a career coach and I've been working with people for 20 years to figure out their stories. I'm just going to say, I was teaching this drama class, acting for film for adults. And this guy came to me and he said, Kerri, since taking your class, like I've been promoted, I'm carrying myself differently at work, and that got me thinking, is there a way to combine stories and drama with the way people show up in their careers? That's going to be way more enticing, right? So having a book, but we're on LinkedIn, the way, if someone's just coming to you new, they're not going to care about your story until you have a credibility. So you want to say what you're good at and how long you've been doing it first. So ground people and then go into a story, because they're not going to care about your drama class if they don't already know things that you've achieved. So I think it's where your audience is how they're coming to the story.
I love that. I feel like I've learned so much today from you too, Kerri, because for me, I'm more structured. Like I like frameworks and template. I think it's because the math tutor in me, like I was a math tutor, so I'm all about formulas, like 1, 2, 3, step 1, 2, 3. But my learning too is incorporating more of those stories as well, and connecting the dots. What I'm hearing is like doing this exercise where you can connect the dots and see these kind of themes and patterns that make you unique.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And bringing out the emotional side. And that's what I'm really hearing, that's really what's the key here, is to differentiate, telling that so that people can really relate to you there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. So to wrap up, can you tell us a little bit about your book? It's a big deal. When is it coming out?
Okay.
What's it about?
It's the Career Stories Method. So it's actually, the first chapter is how to find your career stories cards and then what to do with them after. So it walks you through the 11 steps of figuring out your career story, how to tell it, how to tell a better story. There's a resume section, LinkedIn section, interview section. There's meditations. It's like everything that I know in a book. And it comes out January 26th. So I think it's slowly getting added to online shops. So I think it's on like Amazon as an ebook, but the print version, the listing hasn't shown up. But the real release is, January 26th.
Woohoo. Guys, can you please give a big congrats to Kerri?
Thank you.
Author, publishing a book. That's a big deal. Can you just please give a big applause and congrats, Kerri, on this, publishing a book? I wrote a book like over 5 years ago, but never published because things got in the way with everything. But I'm going to be doing it one day, and I'm so inspired by you. And I can't wait to get a copy as well, and also get it for my clients, because I think what you do, like, it's really important right now, and especially in today's competitive market, to stand out. It's really telling your career stories in a way that really resonates with your audience. So thank you for the work that you do. And I'm so glad we got connected. I've been following your work for quite some time already. And then recently Kamara connected us. So I'm so grateful for that there. Any final words or advice, for those not managing their career in job search for 2021?
So I think, spend the time to know you're awesome. I think it's great to get tips and comes to things like this. And, but with everyone, ask, hey, does this work for me? Is this advice for me? So make sure you're checking that, and don't lose the art of it. So there's lots of like templates and techniques, and say this, and these are the exact same words, and use this formula. But when you start to just kind of be that robot, you become less interesting and less likely to land something amazing, right? If 2020, we have this like kind of, we do not love people who are telling rehearsed stories. We're not loving people who are just like me. So remember the art of it. And if you can think about the way that you usually get people to help you or like you or make things happen, use that same skill in your job search. It's that special thing that's going to make people, right? So if it's flirting and making jokes is how you've gotten everything, then flirt and make jokes in your job search. Like, don't become a robot in it.
Oh my goodness.
It's so important. Yeah.
Yes. Hashtag be you. Hashtag know you're awesome. I'm going to give a challenge to you guys. I'm going to challenge you guys to write a story, a post on LinkedIn. Tag me and Kerri. I want to see it. Don't worry about being perfect. I just want you to do it. Like the techniques that Kerri shared today. Just try it out. Put yourself out there and share a story. Okay, this is how you get started with becoming a better storyteller.
That would like touch my heart so much to see people just sharing stories.
Yeah, I will love to see that. So thank you so much, Kerri. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for your time here. And I am so proud of you with you publishing your book. I'm definitely going to I'm going to write that down there.
Awesome. Beautiful. Okay. Enjoy. And thank you for this summit. This is
my pleasure.
Very,
my pleasure.
very, very impressive. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been great. All right. You take care. Bye now.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, guys. Wasn't that amazing? That was so, so good, right? What were your key learnings here today? Like, I've learned so much. I love this so much here. And we're going to be taking a break, a lunch break here. I will be back at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to kick off segment 4, final segment of the day. Are you guys going to be here? Tell me yes, you're going to be here. I'm going to kick it off with my friend Kamara Toffolo, who's a LinkedIn top voice of 2020, and we're going to talk about pro tips for job searching. And then we're going to move in to talk to Andrew Seema, who's a senior news editor at LinkedIn News for career and job search. I was recently on his show on Get Hired Live last month, where I talked about interview best practices, and that video had over 80,000 views. One of the top most viewed videos on Get Hired Live there. And then afterwards, we're going to talk to Madeline Mann, who is an HR human resources leader and founder of Self-Made Millennial, where we're going to talk about how to follow up with companies when they go silent. And we're going to talk about some interview tips as well. Some tips and strategies on how to really follow up to get the interview. Then we're going to take a little break, a half an hour coffee break, and we're going to wrap up the day with Adrienne Tom, who's an award-winning resume writer, 30 times award-winning executive resume writer, to talk about resume mistakes and resume tips for 2021. And then lastly, Jack Kelly, who I just met last week, who's going to come to talk to us about insider insights on recruitment. He has over 20 years of recruiting experience. And he's also a senior contributor for Forbes. And so we're going to talk jam about recruiting. I have a lot of experience in that. We're going to talk about the difference between agency recruiting, corporate recruiting. So really stay tuned for that. It's going to be jam-packed there. And I look forward to seeing you guys. You guys have been amazing here in participating. For those who also, though, my silent supporters, thank you as well. I see you, I hear you. Feel free to private message me or text me if you have my number there for my clients. I will be back at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Enjoy your break. Cheers.